Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Tuesday matinee edition of the New Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler, of course.
Hello.
How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing all right here on this Tuesday afternoon. Got quite the show for you guys today. This is a fun one. We haven't had too many fun ones lately. It's not up to us. We just report the news. We don't make it. But we do have a fun one. Fun show today. Looking forward to it.
I suggest Brazil.
No.
No?
I don't want to do Brazil, no.
You don't want to do Brazil?
No. I want to do Glengarry Glen Ross this month. It's the right month for it. It's in the conversation.
Not really. Brazil's more in the conversation.
Yeah, no.
Everybody's bringing it up because of, current events.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
it's in the
we'll
zeitgeist.
See. Mm-hmm. We'll make that determination. Brazil's 2.5 hours. It's way too long for a movie.
Is it 2.5 hours?
Yeah. So that's out. Not
Is
doing it? Yep. 2:22. Way too long for a movie night. You got to figure we do like an hour.
How do you know that? Did you just look that up?
Yeah, I just looked it up.
That?
I figured it was long.
I was like, that's very Rain Man.
No. I used to know the run times to a lot of these films when I was a kid. It was like I was a savant in that way. But yeah, no,
really?
I remember it being long. And yeah, anything over like two is like the max for a movie night because we do, about 30, 40 minutes of commentary plus calls. Forget it.
All right.
Veto. Nice thing about Glengarry Glen Ross, an hour, 40 minutes. It's tight. It goes by like that. It's easy. We are having a movie night, though, this Thursday night, by the way, folks. Thursday evening. We usually do it 7 or 8 o'clock. We'll have an exact time on the morning show or the noon show.
That's not a bad suggestion. Somebody threw out the parallax view. That's not a bad.
All right, we'll think of it.
Yeah.
We'll think of it. Yeah, no. See,
Can't do
Jesse says
Clockwork
that's
Orange.
a relief.
Way too much rapine in that movie.
Actually, Idiocracy is not a bad one. People are suggesting that. Yeah, Jesse says that's a relief. See, that's what you got. You always got to think timing. That's what. So we can't show nudity, obviously, on Rumble, and we can't go like too long because these are not like traditional screenings; they're more like presentations. So anyway. We got a big crowd in here today. That's great. 589 strong in the YouTube chat, 382 strong in the Rumble chat. Smash that like button, smash that follow button, and let's get started. We got a lot to get to today. Last time we ran out of time. We don't want to have to scratch anything for time today.
All right,
Whiskey today.
Let's go, baby. I got
13.
a Bills tailgate party to get to.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Oh, God damn it, man. Listen, dude, I feel bad about this because we met our fan Jeff at breakfast, and I promised him I was going to throw up his photo on Sunday. I totally forgot. Then I thought today. I totally forgot. All right, so I'll just hold it for Sunday at this point. So I got the impression he's a regular viewer. So, Jeff, if you're watching, I didn't forget you, man. We will have that photo up there. So yesterday here in Buffalo, they had Dingus Day, which apparently is just a local thing that the Polish immigrants created.
Right.
Where they get drunk and listen to polka the day after Easter.
Oh,
so there was a band that's famous if you're the kind of person who'd be really into Dingus Day. It was famous for them. Like they treated this band like rock stars. It was like a 10-piece band. They were a solid band, but when they went into a polka cover version of Splish Splash, I was taking a bath. I was just thanking my lucky stars that whatever LSD molecules might still be stored in my fat cells have long since been burned away, because that was trippy shit, man. That was very that was very true. Well, I sent you the America medley. That was pretty interesting too. They did a whole tribute to America. So Sunday, I guess I'll throw some of that into the intermission because it's copyrighted music. It was a scene. It was fun. You know, it was fun. Drank in a biker's bar a little bit.
Nice.
It was a scene. All right. So to the day's headlines. Whiskey-gate 2. Whiskey-gate keeps rolling on.
Whiskey leaks. That's what we call whiskey leaks.
Whiskey leaks. So let's see the month that we've had under our new defense secretary. So first, Trump had to cancel a meeting that Hegseth set up for Elon to sit in on top secret classified briefings at the Pentagon regarding China, a country where he has a lot of business interests. That was so obviously crossing a line that even Trump came out and said, "Hey, you wouldn't show it to a businessman." President Trump said in denying that Elon Musk was to be briefed on top secret plans in the event of war with China. So this is back March 21st. This article came out. Moving along, of course, this was the big one. First week in March, just a few days later, the first whiskey leaks broke. Jeffrey Goldberg included, of course, on a Signal chat with most of the national defense team without anybody noticing, shared details of attack plans. Now, this follow-up here, this didn't have to happen, but because they insisted on taking the defense that there was nothing classified in it, well, then you can publish it, right? You said it's not classified. So they wound up inciting Goldberg to print the actual screenshots. Then it broke just a few days later. This is March 28th. Hegseth brought his wife to sensitive meetings with foreign military officials. She is, of course, a former Fox News host, which seems to be the primary qualification for getting a job in Trump's cabinet. Pentagon in chaos after Hegseth sheds 4 staffers in one day. It had been quieting down. It had been quieting down for a few weeks, and then boom, this broke on Friday. And somebody who actually was a Hegseth loyalist who wrote an op-ed promoting his confirmation when his confirmation was pending, not only resigned and refused to take a new position, but now after these 4 probably friends of his got fired, he actually wrote an op-ed describing the chaos inside the Pentagon under Hegseth and urging his resignation. So here he describes what happened with these 4 staffers, according to him. On Friday, Hegseth fired 3 of his most loyal senior staffers: Senior Advisor Dan Caldwell, Deputy Chief of Staff Darren Selnick, and Colin Carroll, Chief of Staff to the Deputy Secretary of Defense. In the aftermath, Defense Department officials working for Hegseth tried to smear the aides anonymously to reporters, claiming they were fired for leaking sensitive information as part of an investigation ordered earlier this month. Yet none of this is true. But remember, this is an op-ed. While the department said it would conduct polygraph tests as part of the probe, not one of the 3 has been given a lie detector test. In fact, at least one of them has told former colleagues that investigators advised him he was about to be cleared officially of any wrongdoing. Unfortunately, Hegseth's team has developed a habit of spreading flat-out, easily debunked falsehoods anonymously about their colleagues on their way out the door. Hegseth is now presiding over a strange and baffling purge that will leave him without his 2 closest advisors of over a decade, Caldwell and Selnick, and without chiefs of staff for him and his deputy. More firings may be coming, according to rumors in the building. In short, the building is in disarray under Hegseth's leadership. Now, remember, this was somebody who strongly advocated for Hegseth to pass the confirmation process and become Secretary of Defense. Now, having experienced Hegseth's leadership, he's calling for his resignation. Now, what this sounds like to me, reading the story, because he essentially says that the person who was tasked to go find leakers had a personal dislike for the people he eventually accused of being the leakers and fired. This sounds to me like you've got an incompetent drunk running the Pentagon who was very easily manipulated by the bureaucratic infighting that goes on in any large institution. A lot of people say that Donald Rumsfeld got where he got because he was one of the best inside knife fighters in Washington. And in the end, when you get to that level of the Pentagon, that's what it takes to get ahead. It's not really about skill. It's about bureaucratic infighting.
Right.
And Hegseth did not really understand how to play that game. So it sounds like he got manipulated into firing his main supporters. Very Roman. So a joint statement was released from Caldwell, Carroll, and Selnick. We are incredibly disappointed by the manner in which our service at the Department of Defense ended. Unnamed Pentagon officials have slandered our character with baseless attacks on our way out the door. All three of us served our country honorably in uniform. For two of us, this included deployments to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we understand the importance of information security and worked every day to protect it. At this time, we still have not been told what exactly we were investigated for, if there is still an active investigation, or if there was even a real investigation of leaks to begin with. While this experience has been unconscionable, we remain supportive of the Trump-Vance administration's mission to make the Pentagon great again, get the transes out of the bathrooms,
Yeah, right.
and get the Toni Morrison out of the libraries. No, they finished with achieve peace through strength and freedom through slavery and so on. We hope in the future to support those efforts in different capacities. So yeah, it sounds like he was manipulated into getting rid of some of his strongest supporters by a inside bureaucratic fighter, much more skilled than himself. But it got worse. Next day, it got worse. New York Times broke over the weekend. Hegseth said to have shared attack details in second Signal chat. This one to his brother and to his wife, the former Fox News host. All right, so let's hear some of that.
Weeks after revelations that Hegseth sent highly sensitive military attack plans to administration officials on the commercial app Signal, sources now say Hegseth shared some of the same sensitive attack plans with his wife Jennifer and others on a separate Signal chain that he created. The Signal chat he shared with his wife, a former Fox News producer, included launch plans of F-18 fighter jets attacking Yemen, according to sources. Hegseth has also been under scrutiny for allowing Jennifer Hegseth into some meetings with foreign dignitaries, but Hegseth denying he did anything wrong.
Okay. Now, a lot of people are saying that he's drunk giving this statement, or at the very least, recovering from the night before's antics, and that his kids look mortified, and that he shaved his sideburns unevenly. We will allow you to be the judge. We present, you decide.
What do you want to say, sir, about the Signal chat controversy?
You know, what a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. And on hoaxes, time and time again. And as they peddle those lies, no one ever calls them on it. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter. So I'm happy to be here at the Easter egg roll with my dad and my kids, because, you know, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats. This is why we're fighting hoaxsters. This group, this group right here, full of hoaxsters that peddle anonymous sources from leakers with axes to grind, and then you put it all together as if it's some news story. And when we know it, we know exactly what it is. So I'm really proud of what we're doing for the president, fighting hard across the board, and I'm going to go roll some Easter eggs with my kids. Thank you very much. Have spoken to the president, and we are going to continue fighting on the same page all the way. Come on, guys.
Yeah. So if you look at these kids, they'll look happy. Pete Hegseth's kids have that dad's drunk again trauma face, even though it's funny that he shaved one sideburn but not the other. Imagine having to live with this emotional train wreck. As I said, we report, you decide. He seemed a little lit to me. What do you think, Keith?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just
this is what you do.
More than normal. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if you have another video showing the sideburn discrepancy, but I could show it here. Here, I'll mute it up. And yeah, it is true. One sideburn is shaven. Oops, sorry, wrong video. Here. Let's go. Yeah, so that sideburn is not shaven. And then if you look at the other sideburn is shaven completely. Now look, it would be throwing stones from a glass house if I were to critique his grooming too harshly. However, that is a mistake even I have not made in my life, where you leave one sideburn going halfway down your face and you trim the other one.
You won't let me do my job. You won't let me do my
job. There's one of them. And then there's the other. I mean, that looks fucked up. I mean, he looks a little toasty to me. Not terrible, but toasty.
Probably from the night before.
Yeah.
Probably from the night before. Maybe he takes a little shot just to settle the nerves.
No, I doubt he drank for the Easter egg roll. I'm sure he intended to show up sober.
Little hair of the dog in the morning. Yeah. You know, just enough to level out his nerves.
Yeah.
But we report, you decide, folks. So now NPR broke a story that the White House is looking to replace Pete Hegseth as defense secretary, which they are, of course, vehemently denying. Carolyn Levitt, Washington's favorite sugar baby since Mary Todd Lincoln. This NPR story is total fake news based on one anonymous source who clearly has no idea what they are talking about. As the president said this morning, he stands strongly behind the defense secretary. So let's see what Trump said.
Ask the Houthis how he's doing. Ask the Houthis how much dysfunction they have. There's none. Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think they've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees. You know, he was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people, and that's what he's doing. So you don't always have friends when you do that.
Should he stop?
Okay, so it's just the people that he got rid of that he probably got manipulated into unjustly firing his friends and supporters. That's all it is. It's them leaking. But here you finally have at least one GOP rep willing to risk the wrath of the boss. GOP rep Bacon says Hegseth should go. I had concerns from the get-go because Pete Hegseth didn't have a lot of experience. Bacon, a former Air Force general who now chairs the subcommittee on cyber issues, said in an interview. I like him on Fox, but does he have the experience to lead one of the largest organizations in the world? That's a concern. I'm not in the White House, and I'm not going to tell the White House how to manage this, but I find it unacceptable, and I wouldn't tolerate it if I was in charge. Russia and China put up thousands of people to monitor all these phone calls at the very top. And the number one target besides the president would be the Secretary of Defense. Russia and China are all over his phone. And for him to be putting secret stuff on his phone is not right. He's acting like he's above the law, and that shows an amateur person. It looks like there's a meltdown going on. There's a lot of smoke coming out of the Pentagon, and I got to believe there's some fire there somewhere. And you know who else thinks that Pete Hegseth should resign? Past Pete Hegseth. If he were to travel to the future and talk to the drunken wreck Pete Hegseth that he would one day become, he would probably tell him to resign for mishandling classified information.
The standard operating procedure inside the Clinton Secretary of State office was to send emails that couldn't otherwise be printed to the maid to print them out of a secure area or from a secure area and then hand them off. Any security professional, military, government, or otherwise, would be fired on the spot for this type of conduct and criminally prosecuted for being so reckless with this kind of information. The fact that she wouldn't be held accountable for this, I think, blows the mind of anyone who's held our nation's secrets dear, who's had a top secret clearance like I have and others, who know that even one hiccup causes a problem, let alone a standard procedure like this.
Even one hiccup. And he's talking about the consequences that people at the top should face. Forget about some of what they've done to rank and file people and civilians, right? If Jax Texera can get 15 years in prison for sharing classified intel on Discord, Pete Hegseth can get 15 years in prison for sharing classified intel on Signal twice. I'm sure that's something that 2016 Pete Hegseth would agree with wholeheartedly, not so much drunken wreck Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he lasts. NPR reported that they are looking for a replacement, and then of course Levitt and all of the Trump team shouted that down as fake news, and
that's what they said about Elon, and now they're confirming that he's leaving at the end of May.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything so far. So far, you have a report that they're seeking a replacement for him. I would assume they will not can him until they have a replacement figured out. Until then, of course, they're going to say, nope, he's our guy. That's what you do. That's what the Democrats did when, it was clear Biden was going to drop out. And for a month, they said, no, it's not going to happen. They always say that until it does. Right. So that doesn't really mean anything that they denied it. What is funny is you see like Cat Turd, Lives of TikTok, all of the influencers go and just parrot the line that no, it's fake news, which we'll see how those tweets age. We'll see how those tweets age if and when it should come out that he is being replaced. Don't forget, in the first Trump administration, I mean, they went through cabinet members like nothing. They replaced everybody out. How many attorney generals did he have? I think he had 3, right? Or 2, and like an acting attorney general, something like that. Don't forget, you had, what's his name? The Senator Foghorn Leghorn there. What's the guy's name? The first guy who endorsed him? The guy from Alabama, the white hair.
Yeah.
Forget who he is. Everybody will know in the chat. I'm just blanking on his name. Yeah, I mean, so that was a long 4 years in terms of cabinet people. We'll see how long Hegseth lasts. But yeah, no, look, I mean, he is a liability. Obviously, you're not even 100 days in. What are you, 90 something? You're 92 days in. I mean, this is the thing. Like, it's a long 4 years when you're that much of a fuck up. And once again, the only reason that I care about this story is really because I want to see them pay for the war crimes that underlie all of these leaks. Pardon me. There is a severe underlying crime, which is the bombing of the poorest country on earth. I don't think we should lose sight of this and act like this is all about procedure. To me, there's a moral case against them as well. But yeah, he's a liability. He's a buffoon. He's a clown, obviously. The whole lot of them are fucking clowns. We'll see how long they last, because this team is more clownish than the first team, but they're also more loyal to Trump. The mistake Trump made in this first term was he picked people who had 1 foot into MAGA, 1 foot into the deep state, whatever that means at this point. But the faction of the deep state that was anti-MAGA.
The one that Patel's not going after.
Right, the one that Patel's not going after, exactly. Right? Now they're more clownish, but they're more loyal to him, so maybe he'll be less likely to replace them because now I have to vet someone who I don't really know about. He got his first choice across the board except for Matt Gaetz this time. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how long he lasts. I don't know. I think it's 50-50
Matt
at this
Gaetz
point.
was really his first choice.
Exactly, right. That could have just been a head fake.
Right. It was a Fugazi.
Yeah, it was a Fugazi.
Fugazi. Yeah, Hegseth, even in terms that we obviously don't support or agree with, the overall mission of the Defense Department and the Pentagon, the job was too big for the man, clearly.
Right.
And anybody could have seen that. What's his qualification? That he's a fanatical end times Christian Zionist? I mean, this crowd, I know that's a qualification, but he doesn't even have the relevant experience to execute on even that vision. He's a drunken, skirt chasing Fox News host. Really, like you could not write a better parody. This is ending up being exactly the Christopher Guest movie that you expected it to be if you grabbed this guy and tried to put lipstick on the pig and make him the defense secretary. Obviously, it's not working out. I think whatever they're saying right now, he's just too much of a fuck up. That's too visible a position. You're right. The only reason he's not gone yet is because Trump likes him, because he doesn't contradict Trump. But in the end, Trump is about number one. And this guy keeps embarrassing him. And I think we can pretty much be assured that he will. He's going to have to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's all calculation with Trump. I mean, he appreciates your loyalty insofar as your loyalty helps him. But, you know, once your value dips into the red, it's only a matter of time. And I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, we're only 3 months in. This guy's going to serve 4 years like this. You have 2 leak scandals within 90 days, and we haven't even attacked Iran yet. Imagine when we're at war with Iran. They're going to have this guy, right? I mean, it's. I don't think it's.
You sent the attack plans to Grindr,
right?
Grindr,
exactly. Yeah. It does not seem sustainable to me. Yeah.
You're not even gay.
Yeah.
Are you?
Are you? You're not even gay. Unless you are.
Unless you are.
Maybe
it's very strange that this wound up on Grindr.
Look, I'm not judging. I'm not judging the man. Just saying. It is kind of
strange.
How
could that happen?
Yeah.
Is that why you drink? Because you're living a lie?
Is that
with your wife and 5 children? Are you lying to them every day? That would make me drink.
Yeah, I'm sure I would drink.
I'm sure I would drink.
If I were gay.
If I were gay
I'm not.
with 5 kids and a beautiful wife.
Yeah. We'll see. It's 50-50 at this point. I have to think that, you know, they at least heard it from somewhere that they were seeking out a replacement. Now, how credible that source is, you don't know. But seems like step 1 has commenced. And yes, the Elon thing is a good example, right? They say, no, Elon's not going anywhere. That's fake news. And now you never see from him anymore. And now it looks like, he is on his way out. Yeah. So we will see how that goes. All right, folks, 1,400 in the YouTube chat, 587 strong on Rumble. Thanks once again, for being here today. China Shill for $5 over on YouTube says, the only good pope we've had in our lives is dead. Now they can vote the most reactionary POS possible to legitimize fascism in the world. Rest in peace, Frank. Thank you, China Shill. Appreciate that very much. We got some Rumble rants filing in over here. Hillary Hinton says cigarettes are torches of liberty. Oceania has always been at war with East Asia. Hamas uses infants as human shields. Brando has electrolytes, and the truth is still putting its boots on. Thank you, Hillary Hinton. Let's see here. No Fumata Bianca, no white smoke until the College of Cardinals meets with Piers Morgan and profess condemnation of Hamas. Thank you. Abiding because 67, Peter Sellers, The Mouse That Roared. That's an interesting pick.
I've been thinking about kicking it old school. I was thinking about doing Chaplin, the Great Dictator.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's fun. I like that. That's a fun idea. I like that idea. Yeah. Victor Shakopopoulos, consider Lulu the tool Italian classic dramedy about the alienation of a modern working man. It's 2 hours and you probably don't know it, so there'd be less commentary on your part. Thank you. I mean, we would want to watch it before. I mean, if it's like a new release, that's an exception, obviously. But yeah, we want to add the commentary. That's part of the point. Thank you, though. Vito P. Trump nominates Klaus Schwab as geriatric medicine czar. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. You rock, Vito. Thank you.
Thank you, Vito,
for that donation. Appreciate that very much. Ficus, thanks for the donation. Deport Hegseth. Look at those tattoos. He's obviously Trend Nicaragua. And while you're at it, deport Justin Bieber, too. He's Trend Canada. Yes, well, there was a whole thing where he has the supposedly, white supremacist tattoos that got him in trouble before.
Deus Volt.
Yeah. Deus Volt, yeah.
Used by neo-Nazis is on his bicep. Yeah.
Indeed. All right, folks. Give me a second here. All right. I got kind of a big one. Got a three-parter here. Who knew you were going to get the most thorough coverage of the death of the Pope from two Jews? But you are. Nobody has the Pope coverage. Nobody's got this covered.
Hey. Anybody who knows the authorship of all the best Christmas songs would see that coming.
That's right. That is a good point. A good point indeed. So, folks, we lost the real one, a based Pope. Yes, Pope Francis dies at 88 after final appeal for Gaza ceasefire. That's right. One of the last public statements he made had to do with the genocide in Gaza. The Vatican announced Monday that Pope Francis has died at the age of 88, hours after he appeared at an Easter Mass and appealed for an end to Israel's war on the Gaza Strip. The Pope's Easter address, read aloud by Archbishop Diego Ravelli, decried the terrible conflict in Gaza that continues to cause death and destruction and to create a dramatic and deplorable humanitarian situation. News of Pope Francis's death came after a bout with double pneumonia left him hospitalized for more than a month. The Vatican did not specify a cause of death, and its announcement was a stroke. We now know that since the publication of this piece. The Nation's John Nichols wrote Sunday that Pope Francis's calls for peace have made him arguably the most consistent high-profile defender of the humanity of the Palestinian people during a period when the Israeli assault on Gaza has been pursued with relentless violence. In a tribute to Pope Francis, Palestinian theologian Munther Isaac wrote Monday that he conveyed true compassion to Palestinians, most notably to those in Gaza during this genocide. The Pope left our world today, and the occupation and the wall remained. Even worse, he left our world while a genocide continues to unfold, Isaac wrote, pointing to the pontiff's call for a thorough international investigation of Israel's assault on Gaza. So yes, Munther Isaac is the pastor from Bethlehem, which is, of course, in the occupied West Bank. We've featured both his sermons and some of his interviews several times over the past year and a half. Palestinians and Palestinian Christians in particular have lost a dear friend today. Pope Francis was beloved in Palestine. He conveyed true compassion to Palestinians, most notably to those in Gaza during this genocide. His pastoral heart was evident in his insistence on calling the Christian community besieged in Gaza on a constant basis, even from his hospital. Some years ago, Pope Francis visited Bethlehem. We all remember the iconic image of him praying at the wall. This is what I wrote about this incident in my book, The Other Side of the Wall. And this continues, fairly long tweet. I took some highlights. When Pope Francis stopped, touched the wall, and said a prayer, it was truly a monumental moment that made waves in world news. Pope Francis couldn't help but notice the ugliness of this concrete structure at the heart of Bethlehem. This wall should make us all uncomfortable. To this discomfort, the Pope couldn't help but react and reach out. By responding in this manner, the Pope touched more than the wall. He touched the ugliness of the occupation and war. He touched the depth of our suffering. With humility and weakness, he looked injustice in the eyes and challenged it. So here he is at the wall. Today, I wonder, will the millions who mourn his death these coming days respect this wish of his? Will they care for Gazans and Palestinians the way he did? May his soul rest in glory with his Savior. Humanity lost a special soul today. And yes, this was an article in The Guardian in 2014 when he made this visit. Pope Francis offers prayers at Israeli separation wall in Bethlehem. You see Free Palestine painted on the occupied side of the wall. Stop rouses controversy as Pontiff invites Perez and Abbas to Rome in unprecedented papal intervention in peace process. And yes, he did make hundreds of calls per day into Gaza until the end. So here is some video of that. Pope Francis made about 470 daily video calls to Gaza during Israel's massacre.
سلام عليكم حبيبنا appreciate your acá venía a saludar a algunos bandidos. Este es Carlito. Vos. Ahí va, vos el baba. Ahí va. Este es baba. Bye bye. Bye bye. Ok, muchas gracias, Santo Padre. Muchas gracias, Santo Padre. Grazie tante. Può ringraziare, pregare per lei, chiedere sempre prega per loro. E prega a favore, non contro. Sì, grazie, Santo Padre.
Of course, towards the end, getting older, faster, and becoming more frail. But here he was in December of last year. In his final Easter message, he called for a Gaza ceasefire and condemned the deplorable humanitarian situation. In December, he said of an Israeli strike that killed children, "This is cruelty. This is not war."
Sono stati bombardati bambini. Questo è crudeltà, questo non è guerra. Voglio dirlo perché tocca al cuore.
And our friend Dave DeCamp here says, the man was excellent on the issue of war. Rest in peace, Pope Francis. And a little epilogue to this slideshow here. Here he is checking Netanyahu for saying that Jesus spoke Hebrew. He corrects him Aramaic.
Gesù ha vissuto qui. Parlava ebraico.
That's right. One more time.
Gesù ha vissuto qui. Parlava ebraico.
There you have it. The based Pope Francis, the first non-European Pope, by the way, in 1,300 years. Over 1,000 years since we've had a non-European Pope. I remember when he came and spoke at Madison Square Garden. Those were back in my street peddler days. I sold buttons to the people outside waiting for him in the parade. I actually sold 2 Pope buttons to the naked cowboy. I tried to find the
Did
photo.
you really?
Yeah, I tried to find the photo for this segment, but he bought 2 buttons and he put one on each ass cheek on his underwear and made me take a picture of that. It's got to be. I don't know if it's on my Facebook or somewhere. I think I posted that. But yeah, man, a based Pope. We'll get into some of the very touching MAGA eulogies as well as the hotshot who they want to replace him. We have a couple more pieces on that. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the response to this from a guy like Munther Isaac, you can see that for whatever flaws he may have, you may want to talk about. I know a lot of people really criticized him for reducing the immigration issue down to one of, racism and tolerance. Hey, I got to say, you know what, MAGA, you did yourself no favors in that argument. You really have no right to argue that you approached that issue in good faith, as far as I could see, given the record here in the first 90 days. But yeah, overall, he was a man of peace. We've always said this about Pope Francis. As popes go, seem pretty based. And now, obviously, you can look at the institution of the Catholic Church and make countless criticisms there. But if you grade him on a curve versus past popes, he was a real one by comparison, for sure.
The whole thing with the Catholic Church and the Pope and that history, I obviously it's very complex. Of course, the institution has committed a lot of crimes over the course of its history. A lot of people, when they go to the Vatican, have a very negative reaction because it is, when you go to the Vatican Museum, it really does feel like you're rummaging around Western civilization's crazy aunt's attic.
Right.
This is all the stuff that was hoarded over a millennium, right? It's just rooms and rooms and rooms of porcelain figurines and maps and wood carvings of animals, just an endless amount. It feels just like you hoarded everything that came your way for over 1,000 years and just put it in rooms.
Right.
And yes, it does feel, when you're going through that, it does, of course, call to mind the corruption that this institution is often emblemized in many ways. You've had a lot of corrupt popes particularly during centuries, where the male heirs who were not first in line to inherit the estates, the other path to power was through the church. So you had all of these people enter the church who didn't actually enter the church because they wanted to devote themselves to a religious principle. It was because the firstborn was going to inherit the estate. It was the only other way to power.
Right.
So you very often in these aristocratic families had the Lord was one brother and the other brother was a cardinal. So yeah, I think the church is often called out for that, rightly so. The question is, can the institution evolve? And I think the philosophical question that's most interesting is, I grew up in a Catholic neighborhood. I used to talk about this with my friends a lot. And one of them, actually, James, who's been on the show before, we used to examine this history quite a bit. And, he would often point out, look, at the time that they founded this church, remember, this is within an empire where the basic principle of, the emperor can just stab anybody. That was pretty much the way that things were. So this idea that the meek are blessed, that you should turn the other cheek in the face of violence, that was a very radical moral doctrine at the time. The question, because of course Christianity was spread at the end of a sword, a complete contradiction of its underlying message. The question, did introducing these ideas into a world of predator-prey relationships between the powerful and the oppressed, did it end up doing more good than harm? Is the world better for it having existed? And I think you could definitely argue probably so, and that there's room for this institution to evolve beyond its past corruption. And taking all that into account, Francis was going a long way towards allowing that institution to evolve into the ideal that it is so often not lived up to.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, his approach seemed to be, and look, I'm not a religious person, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on, not an expert on
Have you ever been?
Have you ever
I've
been to the
been.
Vatican?
I have been.
Russell has been to the Vatican, so maybe I should cease speaking. Let my partner, who's been, talk about the church and the Vatican. No, but he seemed to have a more spiritual understanding of religion than a lot of his detractors wanted to. The core, I mean, aside from the earthly concerns about immigration and open borders and that, which we'll get into, one of the things they really took issue with, which we'll see in more detail in one of these next pieces, is the fact that, he said that, different religions are different pathways to God, and that even atheists will not be shunned when they die. There's this video of this kid who asked, my dad was an atheist. Is he going to go to heaven? He said, God will not turn your back on him. And the kid got very, very choked up and gave him a big hug. Like he seemed to just on that level view religion as a vessel for humanity rather than this very transactional relationship that a lot of his critics have of him, which is that no, actually religion is a transaction. It's we worship God, God lets us into paradise. Those who don't worship God don't get into paradise. He seemed to, from what we could tell, reject that very transactional understanding of it.
Well, really, like, what kind of sicko would want him to give a different answer to the kid?
To the kid,
your father, he's going to the eternal fire. They're going to the
hell.
demons.
Yes.
They poke him with the pitchfork.
If you want to see your father again, you're going to have to do a lifetime of gay sex so that you go to hell too, so you see him again.
You want to see your father? You better fuck a guy.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, what do they want to say?
Like, what do you want from him? Yeah. Well, this is what I mean. He was trying to evolve Catholicism, I think, with responses like that and observations like that. Even with whether gay people or sinful.
He said they were welcome
damned.
too. Yes, he was pro-gay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's because a lot of people who are attracted to a much more strict Catholicism, that's not a bug. That's the feature. They want that very strict morality. They don't want Christianity to actually be Christian. They want it to be another form of fascism, another form of imposed rules that you can inflict on people as a punishment. It's another means of moral justification and punishing the other.
100%. Yes. It's a very fire and brimstone interpretation of it, which that's the theme of their whole worldview, as we see. They want to be dominated by a strong man. That's what they want. And Pope Francis did not provide that. He had a much more gentle and humane view of things. Now, his place within the legacy of the church is complicated because the legacy of the church is complicated at best, right? So, to litigate that is a much bigger issue, and it's really one that's probably not fair to him because how much influence can one man have, right, within an organization like that? And to the extent he wielded it, he seemed to do so positively. That's what I mean. Yeah, like he seemed to have done his part.
Well, some of the irony of these conservatives going to the Catholic Church for the fire and brimstone. I mean, certainly it has gone through phases like that. But in the Middle Ages and up through the Protestant Revolution, the Catholic Church, because of the core belief in original sin, generally was not, obviously you had the Inquisition, you had these flare-ups, but generally their attitude was because you're a sinner, okay, we'll take you, whatever. Very, very common behind Catholic churches would be the local red light district, because people would go and sin and then they'd go to the church and confess.
Right.
So now you washed it all away. It was just assumed that you're sinful, and you go to the church and you say your Hail Marys, you do your magic incantations, you do your rituals, and then you're forgiven. It was really the Protestant Reformation that pushed this idea of fire and brimstone, because it goes with the idea that what you do in this life is impactful on whether you go to heaven or hell, rather than that it's by the grace of Jesus that you're saved, not through any works that you may do.
Right. Exactly. Well said. Good point, Charles. Sean Brock, thanks for the $5. Let's organize a data strike. We can disrupt corporate profit from our couch without missing work, spending money to travel. What are our demands? Well, same as what we've been talking about, man. I think there are certain, days of boycotting and things like that could certainly be a part of, no doubt. Gavin Hillock, Pope Facts, the only ever English Pope, gave Henry II permission to invade Ireland for not being Catholic enough. Thank you for that. EO Shush said, Hegseth is doing fine. You guys are just being uptight. Have a drink and relax a little. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that. Hegseth shaved off the left signbird conspiracy. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. Appreciate that.
That's one of those signals. That's one of those.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Hegseth must have shaved drunk on Easter Sunday. There you go.
Illuminati motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Hegseth's sideburn fiasco illustrates that he has exactly half a brain. Oh, good one. Thank you for that one. All right, folks, we're going to move right along. As we know, Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88. And while most people had kind words to offer the Pope, not all people did. So Marjorie Taylor Greene sends sick message after Pope Francis' death. That's right. That's the New Republic's editorial opinion. But you can judge for yourself. So she tweets, "Today there were major shifts in global leaderships. Evil is being defeated by the hand of God." Now, that got community noted because readers added context they thought people might want to know. For future reference, this was posted hours after Pope Francis's death was announced. That's right. Hours after Pope Francis's death was announced. Today, there were major shifts in global leadership. Evil is being defeated by the hand of God. Really heartwarming message. Now, major shifts, plural, in global leaderships, plural, because not only did Pope Francis pass away, but Klaus Schwab is stepping down at the WEF. And so here to connect the dots for us is Alex Jones. Two huge events just happened today. Globalist Pope Francis is dead, and Klaus Schwab.
And the trim flew off my Cybertruck.
And the trim flew off my Cybertruck. So I'm here gluing it back on. Pope Francis is dead, and Klaus Schwab has fled the WEF. So here's Alex Jones' lovely eulogy to Pope Francis.
Events happened today. Two huge events happened today. Pope Francis died, and Klaus Schwab completely resigned from the WEF. Both of these are massive events. Now, it's not nice to talk bad about the dead.
But here goes nothing. It's not good to talk bad
That's
about
never
the dead.
stopped me before.
But I'm going to try it. I'm going to give it a whirl. It's never stopped me before.
The facts are, Pope Francis was the first Jesuit pope. When they set up the Jesuits over 500 years ago to police the Catholic Church, it was expressly against the law, canon law, to have one be a pope. Because you can't have the Praetorian Guard that supposedly protect the faith of Jesus, then be the ones that would obviously put their guy in. But that happened. So all the globalists had to do was get control of the Jesuits, which they totally turned into a huge leftist, basically communist arm in the last 100 years. Then they had control of the Catholic Church. Like every other major institution has been taken over by the globalists. We're now in the process of humanity awakening and taking back the institutions all over the world. Catholics are great people. That's why the globalists have been targeting traditional Catholics, trying to outlaw them and say they're criminals. But if you really want to take over the different large sects of Christianity, you've got to take over the leadership of it. So his death, when he promoted open borders and one world religion and just criticized President Trump and other populist leaders, and went on and on.
Oh, that's it. Oh, yeah. He could criticize President Trump and other populist leaders. Open borders, one world religion.
Is really emblematic of the overall collapsing globalist system.
His death is overall emblematic of the collapse of the globalist system.
Religion and just criticized President Trump and other populist leaders, and went on and on, is really emblematic of the overall collapsing globalist system we see. And I say, God have mercy on his soul. I'm not going to judge him, but most Catholics I know absolutely think.
Now, my father, on the other hand, he was a mean son of a bitch. He was a mean son of a bitch. He would drink and he would just beat the holy hell out of me. I don't want to speak badly of the dead.
I don't want to speak badly of the dead, but he was a tough bastard.
On his soul, I'm not going to judge him.
I'm not going to judge him.
He didn't have healthy boundaries.
Most Catholics I know absolutely think that he was a terrible, terrible pope.
But he's probably in hell. All right, so I don't want to judge him, but most Catholics I know think he's probably burning in hell right now. Anyway.
Judge him.
Keywords being Catholics that
most Catholics I know absolutely
yeah, exactly.
think that he was a terrible, terrible pope. Now, moving on to who we know is pure evil. And that is Klaus Schwab, the protege of Henry Kissinger, the mouthpiece of the UN and the globalist.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to hear, and we won't hear. I'm not even going to listen to this. I don't want to hear clowns like this talk about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum while they're broadcasting in front of a Cybertruck trying to gas up Elon, who gave it his very best. I don't know if he succeeded or not because it looks like he's on the outs at Doge, but really tried to usher in that you will own nothing and be happy vision with the cuts that they advocated for, with the decimation of working people that they advocated for. These clowns are going to go up there and talk about Klaus Schwab as if their viewers and their audiences are red-pilled because they're anti-World Economic Forum. You literally have these just bloodless tech bro oligarchs. Or if you read, and listen to stuff that, Whitney Webb talks about it in her books, just this web of oligarchs who seek to establish control through things like digital IDs, like banking on the X app, everything apps and things like that. I mean, you're just a joke. You're just a joke. And his beef with Pope Francis is the same as most of their beefs with Pope Francis. It was, just as we mentioned in the last segment, he took a more spiritual, less transactional approach to the faith itself. But also, the criticism of Donald Trump, the criticism of Israel, and the open borders, as they call it. Basically, what Pope Francis said was, you should be kind and merciful to immigrants. I'm sure Pope Francis wouldn't have loved the idea of sending people to CCOT without due process. That's what they can't stand about him. We have a lot more of these morons, but anything to add before we go on to that?
Yeah, I think a good yardstick for a lot of these people is you got to ask which of them has ever sat down with Whitney Webb. Right. Because it seems like they avoid her like vampires avoid garlic, these fucking clowns.
Well, it would puncture their whole grift.
It would puncture their whole thing, because what does she do when you sit her down? She starts talking about Peter Thiel.
Right.
She starts talking about the PayPal mafia.
Right.
She starts talking about Trump's whole crew. Essentially, Elon's connected to all these guys, and the things they're doing is everything that you say you're warning people against. You got Palantir is subsuming the duties of the Defense Department, becoming basically a privatized Defense Department that can get around constitutional protections, developing AI targeting systems. You'd figure a guy like Alex Jones would be all over that.
Right.
He says private corporations developing AI targeting systems. Pretty soon they're going to start. You're going to be sitting there watching TV. You're just going to get shot in the head. You're not going to know where it came from.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It doesn't say shit about it.
No.
WEF, Klaus Schwab. I mean, not that these things aren't bad, but if you really, and this is basically Whitney's take, if you really wanted to tell the truth, you'd say that's the lib way of creating an own nothing and be happy world. Well, that wasn't working out. There was too much resistance, so they're selling you this way. They're selling you this way. They're telling you that you're resisting it by doubling down on it.
Exactly. And that's why, I'm just not interested in hearing their rantings about the World Economic Forum anymore. Ann Coulter, who always lives by the rule, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it, right? Don't say anything, right? She lives by that rule. The Pope left us far too soon. Where will we now get our sermonizing about the moral failings of others? Quote tweeting, the Pope criticized Mr. Trump's pledge to build a wall on the U.S. border with Mexico, saying it suggested that the Republican candidate was not Christian. Surely a man of such exquisite sensitivity would eventually have gotten around to the tricky moral issue of crossing a border illegally, then committing murder, blank, human trafficking, etc. The late Pope sending migrants away, not allowing them to grow, not letting them have life, is something wrong. It is cruelty. Horribly offensive in her view. Here's George Christensen, who I had never heard of, but he showed up a lot in her Twitter threads here. So he put a little thread out. We're not going to read all of it. It was quite long. The death of Pope Francis is the final chapter in one of the most divisive and destructing papacies in modern church history. I was at the Vatican on Easter Sunday 2018, meters away from him. He passed by in the Pope-mobile. The crowd roared, but what legacy did he leave? This is one of 19 tweets. We're not going to read anywhere near that. And what of Francis's theology? In Singapore, he declared all religions are a path to God. He compared them to different languages. Bishop Joseph Strickland urged him to say clearly, Jesus Christ is the only way. To deny this is to deny him. This wasn't a one-off. In 2018, a boy asked if his atheist father was in heaven. Francis responded, God won't abandon him. It sounds compassionate, and it's great PR, but Scripture and Catholic doctrine affirm those who reject Christ do not inherit eternal life. Again, how sick do you have to be to think, no, you know what he should have done? He should have traumatized the kid. Should have said your dad is in hell.
Yeah.
This is what they hate about him. And in case you want to hear more from this genius, you can check him out at nationfirst.substack.com. No, that doesn't sound like a fascist outlet to me. Follow me here on X at Nation First and subscribe to my newsletter. There he goes. We plugged your Substack for you there. Now, of course, we have to get into a little bit of cause of death here because people couldn't help but notice that one of the last people the Pope had the honor of meeting before he passed away was Vice President J.D. Vance, who tweeted very proudly on Easter, "Today I met with the Holy Father, Pope Francis. I'm grateful for his invitation to meet, and I pray for his good health." Well, you prayed for his good health, did you? Wow. Either there's no God or you're not a very good Christian. I got to say that's
all right.
Only two possibilities at this point.
All right. Listen, JD, I'm giving you. You got to cover your head in mono glue if you're going to use this stuff. Yeah, right. Okay, and you can't breathe it. All right, we have it down in the basement at the CDC. Yeah. Just make sure you don't touch your mouth or rub your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here he is. Here's video of one of the last encounters that the Pope had the pleasure of enduring with J.D. Vance.
God bless you.
God bless
good to see you. Good morning. How are you?
Find yourself.
Good. Yeah, thank you.
Gotta hold his hand for at least 3 seconds.
It's good to see you in better health.
Sink in the pores.
I tell you to wear a mask, but you look like a pussy. Yeah, you're gonna have.
I won't play with the bass.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Won't play with the bass.
Thank you.
These are for your children.
Okay, thank you.
These are the gifts. These are also gifts for you.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
The Vatican tie, and then the rosaries for your wife. The white for your children, and the red one is for.
And this is a piece of the true cross.
Of course.
What they tell us anyway.
And thank you for seeing me. Pray for you every day. God bless you.
Pray for you every day. Oy, oy, oy. Well, where J.D. Vance...
No. Tell her not to shake the hand. Tell her not to shake the hand.
Exactly. No.
Stop.
Well, folks, where J.D. Vance walks, memes follow. So the internet had some fun with this, of course. There he is, the angel of death, visiting the Pope. This was a good one. Just one last thing, Mr. Vance. You say you left the Vatican at what time exactly? Columbo putting the pieces together. And, of course, this one went super viral here. Fuck, marry, kill. J.D. Vance's life's work there. But, I mean... You know, like these people, man, you talk about low class, and the grievance that they have against him is just that he showed some humanity. I mean, that's what they really don't like about him, right? And in Alex Jones speak, that's New World Order globalists, open borders. A lot of it comes down to that, man. I mean, that's why that issue was as potent as it was. And now that they've won the election, and now that they don't have to hide their true motivations behind it anymore, you see, no, it's not about jobs, it's not about wages, it's not about any of that. It's about purifying the population. And to the extent that he had kind words to say about immigration, to the extent that he advocated for humane treatment of people no matter where they're from or what circumstances they're under, right up to and including the Gaza genocide, they just couldn't stand it. That's not their vision of Catholicism. It's not their vision of Christianity more broadly.
Also, what he said about the religions being different languages, very often we observe how being from the West and reared in the West, you have a very provincial idea of how people around the world think. Because, of course, you get this narrative that kind of everyone is like this, like everyone is adversarial and the whole world is violent and fighting to achieve supremacy for their ideology or their culture. And if you talk to members of non-Judeo-Christian religions, one of the most surprising things is they usually pretty much have that view that different religions or different paths to the same place. It was one of the most surprising things to me when I first started talking to Buddhists and Hindus, that they didn't see their religion as the one true path. Even the Hare Krishnas, who are essentially Hindu fundamentalist born-agains, more or less, in our lexicon. First time I really questioned Hare Krishnas. I was curious what they would say about that, because being from this society, I just assumed they would say, yes, those are all lies. They said, oh, no, if you follow Jesus, you'll be fine.
Right. That's it.
Really, only the Jews and the Christians, pretty much, in my experience, even Muslims, see Jesus as a prophet. Like this idea that only your religion has the truth and all the others are sinful. Speaking to people of other major world religions, only Jews and Christians have that belief, that they have the one truth. That's my experience. I'm not saying there's nobody within those religions that speak that way, but my experience has been that would be the odd view, because everyone I speak to who's not Jewish or Christian, pretty much, even Muslims, respect other religions. This idea that your religion has to be in violent conflict with every other belief system, that's unique to us. That's not the norm.
Right. Well, let's move right along here. So Pope Francis passed away, of course, which means that there needs to be another pope to replace him. And already we're seeing the favorite on X is this man, the Cardinal Robert Serra. Yes, so it's time for the first pope from sub-Saharan Africa. Cardinal Robert Serra could do wonders for the church. So let's take a look at why they love him so much. Here's Nick Sorter. Wow, one of the front runners, which he's not a front runner, but we'll entertain this for now. One of the front runners for Pope, Cardinal Robert Serra, is a hardliner against mass migration. Huge. So let's take a look at this guy who MAGA wants for their next pope, the new MAGA pope, the anti-woke MAGA pope.
Qu'est-ce qui vous inquiète?
You know, the biggest worry is that Europe doesn't want any more, or has lost the sense of its origins. It has lost its roots. Yet a tree without roots, it dies. And I'm afraid the West is dying. There are plenty of signs. We see plenty of signs. No more natality. You are invaded still by other cultures, other peoples, which will progressively dominate you by their numbers and completely change your culture, your convictions, your values. Wow. Douglas Murray might convert if this guy becomes the Pope.
This guy reminds me of the Chappelle sketch with the blind black Klansman who doesn't know he's black.
Yeah, the blind black guy who thinks he's a white supremacist. Yeah.
He thinks he's a white supremacist. That's this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the legacy of your people is surely one of being invaded by Western culture,
right,
and forcibly converted.
Yeah. And now this guy says Europe has to be careful lest they be dominated by other cultures. Oh yeah, no, they love this guy. Trad West says this man must be the next pope. We must pray. Gender ideology is a Luciferian refusal to receive a sexual nature from God. Joey Manarino, those who use the Bible to justify mass immigration are bewitched. That's a quote. Gender ideology is a Luciferian refusal to receive a sexual nature from God. Both quotes from Cardinal Robert Serra of Guinea. Make him the next pope. Elias says the conclave shall give this man the papacy. The Catholic Church needs a conservative pope. Yeah, this guy really not hiding it.
Because their membership hasn't been falling off a cliff for decades quite enough. They need this guy.
And this guy's not really shy about saying the quiet part out loud. I've never supported a black this much, says Antunes. Gives you an idea where they're coming from. Make Robert Sarah Pope. Sachin Jose says, as a bishop, it is my duty to warn the West. The barbarians are already inside the city. That's another quote from Robert Cardinal Sarah. They have found love. Now, is he the front runner to be the next pope? No, he is not. No, he is not. I hate to disappoint Nick Sorter here.
They're trying to make him happen.
Trying to make him happen, indeed. The Polymarket odds have Pietro Parolin and Luis Antonio Tagle as the two front runners in the race so far. Robert Sarah way down at 4%. So, you know, they say Twitter is or is not real life, depending on the context. If it appears in this context, it is not real life. If you've been on Twitter the past couple of days, you've learned plenty about Robert Sarah, and you have every reason to believe he is the front runner, but he is not. Robin Minotti says, this one, please God, and circles Cardinal Robert Sarah. Somebody replied to him, though. I don't know. The name on this one is pretty promising. Pierre Battista Pizza Balla. Yes. That's my pick, is Pierre Battista Pizza Balla. With a name like Pizza Balla, that's the best name ever. Pierre Battista Pizza Balla.
That's like Father Guido Sarducci.
I mean, that might be my favorite name ever. Pierre Battista
that would be.
Balla.
They've got to give him a special waiver where he doesn't take the Pope name. He just keeps that one.
Yeah, no, he has to just keep that one.
Pizza Balla.
Pierre Battista Pizza Balla. Not only does Pierre Battista Pizza Balla have the best name, not only of any of the candidates, but of any person who's ever lived. He's also the most based, apparently. Patriarch Pizza Balla visits Gaza Christians. That's right. The Vatican News posted about this.
We have got to start our competing X campaign.
We have to. Pizza Balla 2025.
Pizza Balla.
Pizza Balla 25. We should have shirts made up for Pizza Balla. He presided over Mass with white vestments and a foretaste of Christmas joy. During the Mass, he also confirmed a number of young Palestinian children. The whole world is with you, he said during his sermon. So yes, Pierre Battista Pizza Balla did go to Gaza right before last Christmas. So here's Cardinal Pizza Balla entering Gaza. Here he is. He's in the back there.
Yeah.
With the big hat. The hat. The OG gets the big hat. There he is. That's your next post. And this is in Gaza, right before Christmas.
I'm sold.
I'm sold. So not only does he have, just the greatest name that anyone's ever had, Pierre Battista Pizza Balla, I can't stop saying it. He's also the most based one. So there you go, folks. You have your marching orders for this week. We need to create a Pizza Balla 2025 campaign for the next pope. If he becomes the pope, maybe I'll convert. Maybe I'll convert. Hey, I'm thinking about moving to Malta. The Maltese are very Catholic, so I'd fit in really well as a Catholic, and I'll join if I can join under Pope Pizzaballa.
And
Father Pizzaballa.
Apparently, I got this wrong. Malteds were not invented in Malta, which I think opens up a big market because I might go there with Keaton.
Yeah,
we're gonna put a plate. Malteds by the sea, and we're gonna have a whole thing written up on the menus about how Alexander brought the first Malteds to Malta.
Yeah.
Fuck to the tourists now.
I mean, if this guy, if this guy's the Pope, we'll call it Pizzaballa's Malta Malteds. Pizzaballa's Malta Malteds. No, this guy's the greatest. I love this guy.
This is why we get paid the big bucks, folks.
That's right. So that's our pick for next Pope, Pierre Battista Pizzaballa, the best name there's ever been, and visited Gaza on Christmas. I'm sold. So remember, folks.
All right,
in
folks,
the world
get the hashtag trending.
Yes.
Pizzaballa 2025.
In a world of Robert Serras, be a Pizzaballa.
Be a Pizzaballa.
Yes, clearly. I mean, there's never been a more obvious pick for anything, ever. How can you not pick Pizzaballa?
How is he doing in the rankings?
Not great. He's only 6%. He's only 6%. Yeah, he's slightly favored ahead of Robert Serra. But he's got to catch fire. This guy's where.
No, it's funny. I mean, more and more, I'm glad that they're saying the soft part out loud. If you notice, more and more, the MAGA people are just taking the mask off.
Oh yeah.
If you push them, I had somebody on my ex who's obsessed with commenting on my shit, who's one of our disgruntled former viewers,
right?
He called me a city boy, and I was like, all the city people are wicked and don't know the pleasures of meth addiction and wife beating and alcoholism. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I stereotype people by their region? Did I stereotype an entire region of people? He goes, that's just the Browns.
Oh yeah.
You push them, they'll tell you what they actually think. No, I'm not a racist. Come on. And actually, I'll say this. What that guy said, that is exactly the wavelength they're on. That's why I always said they love a guy like Tim Scott, just like the Democrats do. Just like the Democrats love an Obama. Wall Street loves an Obama. They can keep doing the same thing and hide behind him. How can you say, look, he's black? Right? It makes it easier for them to say, we're not racist. We supported a black pope.
My favorite black. I've never supported a black this much, says Antunes 1.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
No, we're not racist. This movement isn't rife with racists. No.
It's also rife with a yearning to be dominated by a strong man. I mean, these people look at the way, like the fact that you see this guy as like a spiritual leader, right? As if him advocating these things is in service of a better, more desirable world for you to live in. You could see the last thing on their mind is liberty, freedom. They don't all they talk about is throwing people in jail, building walls, deporting people, throwing people in prison. Like that's their whole.
But you tell them about
thing.
You tell them about the suffering of white South Africans. All of a sudden, they're very sympathetic to foreign.
Yeah, their heart opens up. Yeah.
All of a sudden, they really, I mean, not just care. They can't sleep at night. They worrying about their poor white South African brothers. Meanwhile, you have people down in South and Central America who are actually suffering horrible atrocities. Fuck them.
Right.
But you're not a racist. How does that work?
Yeah. No, it's pretty obvious. And the fact that, they are rallying behind this Robert Serra guy who, yes, I mean, they live in a world of bullshit. He's not the front runner. He, knock on wood, will not be the next pope. But yeah, man, they love the idea. They love the idea of just living under the control of dominating men. Right. That's what they love.
Which is why Pete Hegseth's next leak is going to end up on Grindr.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, this is why I say, like, look, I don't even mean it as a troll at this point. I think it's a very serious piece of political thinking that there's a repressed homosexual undercurrent within MAGA, and this is certainly part of it.
Right, just like there was with the Nazis.
Yes,
Come on,
absolutely.
man. Come on,
yes.
man. Nobody
That is
doesn't
sound
wanna get
analysis right
dipped
there.
in the shorts as that into leather.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's sound analysis at this point. And not only is that an element, in all seriousness, I think it is. And that's not a knock, nothing wrong with that. But I also believe that perhaps much more pathological is the fact that that desire to be ruled over and dominated by a strongman is more a reflection of their own sense of powerlessness and despair and meaninglessness. Right? They gain meaning from joining the cult of the strongman who will not necessarily make their lives better, because whose life has gotten better these last 90 days? Nobody's. There's a lot of people whose lives have gotten worse. And if you're one of these people who has this desire, this emotional and psychological need to live in the dominion of a strong alpha male, then that is rewarded in of itself, that other people have been made to suffer. That is where they derive meaning. That's why they like these people who, when you listen to their view of the world, it's such a bleak, miserable place.
Right.
But the people who champion them are the people who already live in a bleak, miserable place. And they feel elevated by the decimation of others. And that's why they rally behind people like Trump and behind guys like Homan and, behind guys like this. When clearly Pierre Battista Pizzaballa is the choice of the people.
That's the people's choice.
That's the people's choice right there. I mean, you can't compete with that name. Are you kidding? Pierre Battista Pizzaballa? That's it. No contest. All right. Sam As I Am, thanks for the $5. I believe it was Lenny Bruce who said, who cares if the meek inherit the earth if they stay meek? Thank you, Sam As I Am. Ladenifer Jadaniston. Oh, Ladenifer Jadaniston. Okay, a play on Jennifer Aniston. All right. History knew a lady pope. Next one, maybe. Kind of want to see it. Can it go wrong? Sorry. Pizzaballa's got you beat this time. It has to be him. Artie Blarty Fart Blast. Will Pedro Pascal be cast as the new pope? Thank you, Artie Blarty Fart Blast. Appreciate that.
He's cast in everything else.
He is in everything else. Steve McNally said George Christensen is one of our batshit crazy North Queensland politicians. Brad Gilbert. Oop, what happened? Brad Gilbert says, I now hope JD pays for the PayPal Mafia and APAC. Yeah, exactly. JD Vance doesn't have the best luck in the prayer department. $1 Million Trooper, make DOD stand for drunk on duty again. There you go. Thank you. $1 Million Trooper. Appreciate that. Ken Minji says, Russ and Keaton, you absolutely have the right to criticize Hegseth's grooming. You guys shave so well. It's inspiring to me. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I think so.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I do usually shave before the show.
That's true. Russell usually does shave. More embarrassing secretary, Hegseth or Buttigieg? Yeah, wow. You talk about a choice there.
That is quite a leper with the most fingers contest.
Yeah. I think Fred Willard would do a good Hegseth in the Christopher Guest picture. He would. He would be great. He would be great. That's a very good casting. They'd have to de-age him the way they did, the Irishman movie. In fact, is Fred Willard alive? I don't want to say he's not if he is, but I thought he had died. Let me look that up. Fred Willard. Yeah, he died. He died in 2020. I thought he did. Yeah, that guy was a talent. Major talents. The Pope had a stroke because he was woke. Homophobic Catholics were good to see him croak. We're glad to see him croak. There you go. Thank you, Hirschma. Appreciate that. Nocturnal Human says, buy 1775 coffee. Have you ever been? Good one, Nocturnal Human. Good one indeed. All right. We will move on. Let's move on to some economic news. Trump threatening or attacking Jerome Powell.
All right. We're calling this when Jerome met Donnie.
That's
so
right.
This war really started way back in November when Powell was asked whether he would resign
President-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
Do you believe the president has the power to fire or demote you, and has the Fed determined the legality of a president demoting at will any of the other governors with leadership positions?
Not permitted under the law.
Okay, so Fed chairs are appointed to 4-year terms. Powell was last reappointed by Biden in 2022. He was first appointed in 2017. So he has until 2026. So that already pissed off Trump, who doesn't like to have his options constrained by little things like law, courts, Constitution, voters, Congress, any of that stuff, any of those niceties. But what really triggered him was Powell made an appearance this week at the Economic Club of Chicago and straight out said he would not bail out the markets with a rate cut.
Where we are now, again, to your question, is the administration is, as I mentioned in my remarks, is implementing significant policy changes, and particularly trade now is the focus. And the effects of that are likely to move us away from our goals. So unemployment is likely to go up as the economy slows in all likelihood, and inflation is likely to go up as tariffs find their way, and some part of those tariffs come to be paid by the public. So that's the strong likelihood. And my hope is that we'll get through this and get back. Well, we're always going to be aiming for maximum employment and price stability. That's what we do. I do think we'll be moving away from those goals probably for the balance of this year, and then, or at least not making any progress, and then we'll resume that progress as we can.
Let's talk a little more about tariffs. I mean, you recognize that some of the effects of the tariffs will be one-off, transitory, but you also have said that perhaps they will give room for a number of firms to raise prices. You mentioned dryers. When washing machine prices went up because of tariffs, dryer prices also went up in tandem, even though they weren't tariffed.
Okay, so just to explain this, a lot of people are citing this as an example of tariffs not working or having unpredictable consequences. So they put tariffs on washing machines to try to increase washing machine manufacture in the United States. Not only did the tariffs not create enough jobs to make up for the ones that were lost, but dryer manufacturers raised their price in tandem with the washing machine manufacturers, figuring they can. Hey, washing machines are more, we can charge more for dryers, right?
Right.
So consumers wound up getting hit twice, and it didn't actually create any new jobs.
What's your sense about the effects of tariffs on inflation? What would make them more persistent, and what would make them have effects on growth?
In a kind of a simple starting point is one tariff comes in that gets passed along in prices and raises inflation, but it's just a one-time thing. So the price level goes up, and that's it. But that can happen in some circumstances, but it depends on a number of things which we don't know yet. And I would point to a couple of them, or three of them actually. One is just the size of the effects. And as I mentioned, the tariffs are larger than forecasters had expected, certainly larger than we expected, even in our upside case. We looked at a range of cases. So that's one. The second one is how long does it take for the tariffs to have their effects on inflation? To the extent it takes longer and longer, that raises the risks that the public will begin to experience higher inflation. They'll come to expect it, and companies will come to expect it. So that risks higher inflation. And the third is just what I mentioned in my speech, which is my remarks, which is got to keep inflation expectations well anchored. So if we have those three things under control, that's what it will take. And indeed, our role is to make sure that this will be a one-time increase in prices and not something that turns into an ongoing inflation process. That's a big part of our job.
Okay, so to recap, to explain a little bit, What he's saying is these tariffs are going to create inflation. So the last thing we want to do is rate cuts, which increase demand, which are going to further push up inflation. There's also a risk of stagflation, where you wind up having stagnant wages because of mass unemployment because of the tariffs. There's no upward pressure on wages, but there's upward pressure on prices. So people have stagnant wages, increasing prices. It's a nightmare. So he's saying, I'm not going to cut rates. Now, Trump is pointing out that in the months before the election, they did cut rates 3 times, but that had long been anticipated as part of their plan. There's nothing really conspiratorial about that. Now you have a new factor, these tariffs. They were on a rate cutting regime. They had raised the rates because the inflation had hit 11%, I think, during the pandemic. So they raised the rates to bring the inflation down. As the inflation came down, they started doing quarter point cuts, half point cuts. They were gradually bringing it down. But now you've introduced the tariffs. He's telling you why he's not continuing. But of course, the conspiracy is he did it to help Biden. It was something he had started doing the year before. It wasn't something he just started doing right before the election.
I'm sure someone explained that to Trump and he was totally receptive to it.
Well, actually, he responded in a very mature way. The very next day, he started truthing out his observations about what Powell had to say. The ECB is expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time, and yet too late Jerome Powell of the Fed, who is always too late and wrong. We're going to go with our Trump all caps translator. When my volume goes up, it's in all caps. Yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down. And the U.S. is getting rich on tariffs.
Yeah.
Too late. Should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. So that was the day after Powell gave that interview. He dropped that. But then he wasn't done. So yesterday the market tanked. It's bouncing today. Looks like a dead cat bounce to me. But it dropped yesterday because right at 9:41, right after the market opened, Trump truthed this out. Preemptive cuts in interest rates are being called for by many, with energy costs way down, food prices, including Biden's egg disaster, substantially lower, and most other things, in quotes for no reason, trending down. There is virtually no inflation. With these costs trending so nicely downward, just what I predicted they would do, there can almost be no inflation. But there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates now. Europe has already lowered 7 times. Powell has always been too late. That's T-O, late. He wrote it. Except when it comes to the election period, when he lowered in order to help sleepy Joe Biden, later Kamala, get elected. How did that work out? Okay. So the market reacted predictably to this rant, largely because they are concerned that Trump is actually going to try to fire the Fed chair, which would probably evaporate what little confidence in American markets in general and the dollar in particular the world has left. So we got a little bit here. Jeffrey Sachs gave a little interview to France 24, and they covered this a little bit.
I think the markets are reacting to our president, clearly. The policies are absolutely erratic. There is no strategy. The attacks on the Fed, the tariffs on, off, the huge fiscal deficits without any strategy whatsoever to get them under control. All of this is weighing heavily on the mood of the markets and on the public mood as well.
Markets had largely recovered from the massive losses they endured after Trump rolled out his Liberation Day tariff proposals. His 90-day pause on the levies providing some respite. But the president's fresh offensive against Powell is causing investors to worry about the central bank's independence. Powell is playing hardball. He's refused to cut rates, as doing so would exacerbate the surge in inflation triggered by Trump's tariffs. The row comes as the administration investigates whether it can legally fire the central bank boss before his term ends in May of 2026. Experts say firing Powell would only push Wall Street further into a downward spiral.
Okay, now the real issue is the threat to fire Powell and what that will do to confidence in America as an investment, which is already on shaky ground. To be fair, to give the argument that the administration is making, they're saying there are a lot of deflationary pressures at work that run counter to the tariffs. They're arguing the mass deportations decrease demand. They're arguing that there's downward pressure on prices coming from the drop in the gas prices that's going to overall, even it all out. They're also arguing, I think, disingenuously, that inflation is relatively low now. There's the top line inflation number, which last time came in at 2.4%, but there's another number, the real inflation number, that's running, I think, about 1.3 to 1.5. So they're saying in the next inflation report it'll come down. I say that's disingenuous because the impact of the tariffs would not be felt in the numbers that have been released thus far. What Powell is taught to say, based on the numbers we have before April 2nd, that inflation is low and you can cut rates, that's not really much of an argument. I will also say, remember, Jerome Powell is the one who said inflation was going to be transitory, very famously during the pandemic, and that turned out not to be true. So I'm not suggesting Jerome Powell is a wizard and everything he's saying must be right, but you start threatening the independence of the Fed, like with a lot of other Trump policies. It's almost like they want them evaluated in isolation, in a vacuum, in a perfect world where your decisions don't garner reactions that can be unpredictable and extend beyond the theoretical quality of the policy. A little bit on the question of whether he even can do this. The Fed is an apolitical institution. Now, they argue that it's not. They argue it's dominated by Democrats, but okay. It makes monetary policy decisions without political considerations, with protection from political retribution. The legal precedent, Humphrey's Executor versus United States, protects commissioners at independent agencies like the Fed from being fired at will. The Supreme Court is about to hear a case that could determine the fate of such protection. If the court overturns the precedent, there would be huge implications for global financial markets. Much of what makes the U.S. the safest place to invest is the trust that the Fed acts in the best interest of the American economy, not the president. Quote, I don't think that decision will apply to the Fed, but I don't know. It's a situation that we're monitoring carefully, Powell said during an interview at the Economic Club of Chicago yesterday, referring to the Supreme Court case. Now, I would personally argue it doesn't really matter how most of the people at the Fed vote. In the end, their loyalty is to neoliberalism. Whether they're Republicans, whether they're Democrats, the current economic system as it is constructed and the assumptions that underlie it, that is what they are going to protect. And in that sense, they are apolitical in the sense that they serve establishment assumptions about economics. Now, Trump is certainly trying to challenge a lot of those assumptions. But to what end, I think is the obvious question. So Christine Lagarde, Powell's opposite number at the EU bank, had this to say about it. So
I know you're close with Chair Powell. I mean, I know you communicate pretty often. Have you talked to him about some of this new political pressure?
We're both used to political pressure in one way or the other. But as I said, I have immense respect for the work that he does and for his loyalty to his job and to being as diligent, disciplined as possible to deliver on his mandate. For him, I think, I'm sure, as it's for me, the mandate is our compass. We have to deliver on our mandate.
If there is an attempt by the executive branch in this country to fire Chair Powell before the end of his term, do you see that as a material risk to markets?
I very much hope not.
Hope that doesn't happen.
Hope that it is not a risk.
What would it mean for the markets?
Look, I'm not going to comment on, market reaction to hypotheticals that I hope are just not on the table.
And here is Senator John Kennedy expressing his views on the possibility of firing Powell.
Would you support President Trump removing Jerome Powell as Fed chair?
I don't think any president has the right to remove the Federal Reserve chairman. I think the Federal Reserve ought to be independent. I think that Jay Powell and President Trump need to sit down and once again have a hug and a cup of hot cocoa and work it out. My experience with Jay Powell is that he's got tiger blood. He's going to do what he thinks is right. And he's not going to go down in history as the Federal Reserve chairman that allowed inflation to become wild as a March hare. And he's going to do what he thinks he's got to do.
All right.
Wow. That's surprising.
He also spoke against the tariffs, didn't he? Wasn't he one of the ones who spoke against
that's
tariffs?
right. Yeah.
So he's been expressing a little more independence about Trump's policies than a lot of the other cowards in the GOP. Hey, there's no question that Trump is trying to blow up the financial system. The question is, in whose interest? Who's benefiting from this? Like, yes, does Jerome Powell represent a status quo? Is he fighting for the status quo? Yes. I would say that most people prefer lower inflation, right? I mean, that's part of the status quo of what a Fed chairman would try to do that I think most people would support. Now, of course, when these people are, this locked into a certain way of thinking, can they wind up getting things disastrously wrong, as they did with inflation being transitory during COVID? Sure, of course. Could the argument that you have deflationary pressures that are so great that they balance out the inflationary pressures caused by the tariffs, could that turn out to be true? I think a lot of that argument is predicated on wrecking the economy so that there's not that much money being spent. So I don't know that that's a good outcome, but it could be true. Okay, what's her name? Kathy Wood, who kind of became a superstar money manager at ARK, is her investment fund, specializes in tech. She's been singing this song for years, that actually people expect inflation. There's going to be a deflationary bomb in the economy. Particularly, a lot of people who say this are focusing on the drop in population. You have an aging population, young people spend more because they're starting up in life. If you have less young people, you have shrinking families, you're going to have deflationary pressures. Again, that could be true. Is that really a good outcome? Is that a world that you prefer to live in? So, of course, with economics, and this is why somebody like Powell, who certainly knows his stuff, could be as disastrously wrong as he was about inflation being transitory. A lot of people say economics is like the weather. Like, there are so many complex factors, it's almost impossible to chart everything with absolute precision. This is why there's such a range of opinion amongst economists. But I think you can pretty safely say, certainly there is no good time to shake the world's confidence in America's economic stability. This is a particularly bad time to do that. And threatening to fire the Fed chair, it's not good. Believe me, not good.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, that goes to what Sachs was talking about. How, just this kind of erratic behavior suggests that things are not under control. It suggests that, Trump is just scrambling to either shape a future reality or react to the one that, he's imposing upon the country now, and to make these demands of the Fed chair. And obviously, I mean, what Kennedy said there, he doesn't have the legal authority to fire him. But yeah, to have a fit about that as if he's not responding the correct way, it projects a very strong lack of confidence, I would say.
Right.
Extremely strong lack of confidence, because you're ranting at something like that's outside your purview. It's not within your power to dictate to him how he should set rates. And so when you do that, what that suggests to people is that things are beyond your control and going in a bad direction. That's the only reason why you would react in that way. And yes, this is a particularly dangerous time to be projecting that uncertainty because of everything else you're doing, which is causing a lot of this uncertainty in the first place. That's what Jeffrey Sachs was talking about too. The tariffs are on, now they're off, now they're on, but they're off for this sector because this brings in too much money here. So yeah, I mean, it just it creates a very, very chaotic and unpredictable environment, which of course in the short term, you're thinking in terms of day to day, week to week, of course that's not good for the market. Of course, that kind of uncertainty is not good for the market. That's what the France 24 piece was talking about.
And a lot of people will say, oh, you're on the left. What do you care about the markets? You know what? If you present a plan where you're going to blow up the markets that's going to benefit working people, yeah, sure, light them on fire. If you look at how this is likely to play out, it seems like you're driving very quickly towards having the worst of both worlds, where you don't get manufacturing, but you have a weaker dollar, so that people's spending power is even worse in an environment where you actually didn't create any jobs. So that you've actually made the conditions for the average American much worse through these efforts.
Yeah. Figuratively, of course, light them on fire. Figuratively, we must say.
Figuratively.
But yeah, no, I mean, that is something that you hear quite a bit.
Because the factories are not coming back. So the dollar's getting
exactly.
weaker.
This is right.
So what do? You just make everything more expensive for Americans.
Yes. And, as we've talked about in the past, factories are only desirable when you have a powerful labor force and a powerful labor movement backing that labor force. This crew seeks to disempower the labor movement and really disempower workers more broadly, which means even if they bring manufacturing back, what are you going to have? You're going to work for $16 an hour with minimal to no benefits in their ideal view of things. And in this case, it is the markets responding to a very bleak view of the overall economy for everybody, right? You're not just hurting the markets. The reason the markets are shaky now is because the economic future of everyone is very uncertain. And the people most vulnerable at any given moment are the people with the least money. And so the market volatility is really a reaction to that. This isn't, we lost a bunch of money and we're not getting bailed out, so we better just liquefy everything, sell. That's not what this is. This is them taking a look at what's to come and deciding now's the time to divest more than to invest. And of course, the immediate impact of that is going to be most severely felt amongst the poor, the working, and the middle class. That's just basic.
Right. Yeah. You got Elon literally getting teary-eyed about the drop in Tesla stock. The guy still has more money than you're going to see in a million lifetimes at the rate that most people earn money. He's tearing up.
Right.
What about somebody who's about to retire? How do they feel?
Exactly. All right, folks. We're going to take a bit of a game break here to share one of our dissident sponsors. A Bard and a Guitar is the name of the album. The artist goes by Dogmatics, and Dogmatics is a musical retelling of the Jonah fable in a modern-day setting. This satire album follows a bard and a guitar tasked by God to help the people of a city whose politics he can't stand. Featuring reinterpretations of All the Girls Go Crazy, No Irish Need Apply, and Love Me, I'm a Liberal. Find it on most music streaming platforms by searching for Dogmatics by a Bard and a Guitar, or you can get there very easily by putting this link into your URL, dudissidents.com/Bard. It's also available on streaming, so give it a listen, a download, and a purchase, depending on your preference. Go to dudissidents.com/Bard. And if you have a art project or a cause or a small business or anything that you would like to promote on this show, you can fill out a contact form at dudissidents.com/sponsors and become a sponsor partner of the show, where you help us and we help you and we help grow the dissident arts community. Speaking of dissident arts community, there is a super chat I want to read here from Alexis Hellwig. Says, thank you so much for reposting my song, Peasant Mind. I'll publish many more songs soon. Thanks for the inspiration. You guys rock. Yeah, thank you. You know, I wanted to actually download that and play that on the show. We'll do it Sunday because that's when we have our biggest audience. But this is the YouTube channel, D. Zident Trap, who wrote a song inspired by this show called Peasant Mind and posted it to YouTube. And
I was going to say, so that really was...
off of it was you. I wasn't. I know you tweet. I guess you tweeted it at us, but I wasn't sure if you had found it or if you were, because your name, Alexis, is not the name on the YouTube channel. So now that we know it's you, we will we'll download it and we'll play it on Sunday night. But yeah, it was cool. I loved it.
Very cool. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Again, great job on the song. It's a good tune. And you can go. So if you put in this here, D. Zident Trap. In the YouTube search, subscribe to the channel. I think you got 3 videos of 3 songs up, and that's one of them, Peasant Mind, inspired by Do Dissidents. So thank you, man. And yeah, we will play it on Sunday night for sure. Now, especially now that I know it's you, we'll play it.
All right, but quick breaking news. You know, the Tesla
Pizza Balla won.
Pizza Balla.
We're calling the race for
the new Pope, but
Pier Battista Pizza Balla.
Pizza Balla. All right. So who's going to fold in this China-America fight? The major, so this is why the averages were up today. It wasn't a dead cat bounce. It was a rumor. The major averages spiked on news. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, told a group of investors Tuesday that there will be a de-escalation in the trade war with China. No one thinks the current status quo is sustainable, he said Tuesday during a meeting with investors hosted by J.P. Morgan Chase. Notable is that doesn't look like China made a call or indicated they were looking to climb down, but that tells you they know they fucked up.
Yep.
They're trying to figure out how to get out of this now.
Oh, yeah. Well, could have seen that one coming for sure. Brad Gilbert. Sorry, got that one already. Race car 789. Thanks for the $20. I wonder if the next pope will be as liberal as Pope Francis. So we will see. We will see. Artie Barty Fart Blast is having a Do Dissident subscription, a little bit like wearing spectacles in Paul Potts Campucha. Thank you. Well, I mean, we hope not. We hope not. You know, I can't tell you. I mean, I don't know what the climate is out there or where you're from. Assuming you're an American, it might be. Although no, you're not an American. You're an Australian, right? In Australia, I don't think so. I think you're an Australian. It says A next to the currency sign. So maybe it depends on the location. Let's see. Alex Jones says, Eric Rousseau, the globalists run by demons will make Schwab the new pope. There you go. Alex Jones, the Pope is rotting in hell like my brain after a bowl of chili during a custody hearing. Thank you. Pope Francis is dead and Klaus Schwab resigned is my favorite Bauhaus song. Thank you. Hillary Hinton. Quetzalcoatl is the way. Thank you. Nocturnal Human. I'm personally concerned that Israelis will stick pizza balla in the oven for this. Good play on words there. Yeah. Let's see here. Oops, got that one. Okay, Cardinal Pizza Balla will get our communion in 30 minutes or less, or the mass is free. That's right. Exempt from donation plate. Tip your altar boy. That's right.
Best audience ever.
Best audience ever. That's right. Healing Tarzan says the fact of the matter is all the religions are wrong. We are already in hell now. That's right. Thank you, Healing Tarzan. Appreciate that. Okay. LaDennifer Janiston, today female pope sounds like something can happen. Virtuoso, thanks for the $2, says Cardinal Clayton Bigsby is a no-go. DC says Craig Pasta Jardula for Pope. Forget about it. There, guys, here we could pizza balla and Craig Pasta. That's the way he could be vice Pope. Pizza and pasta. There you go. All right, let's keep moving on here. All right, so all right, this is a fun one. See, I told you we had some fun ones. We have some not so fun ones. The more serious stuff is coming up, and we will get to it. But
boom.
What?
Oh yeah, Tesla earnings must have dropped because the stock just started plummeting.
Oh wow, interesting. Oh yeah, that's right. It's the end of the quarter last March. That's right. All right, here we go. So, folks, this was a video that really made the rounds, up to 7 million views at the moment I clipped it. Here's Nancy Mace saying, some unhinged lunatic, a man wearing Daisy Dukes at a makeup store, got in my face today. Dems are nuts, so I went off and won't be backing down. I hold the line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Try me. Now, you tell me in this video who was the belligerent lunatic, all right? The Constituent or Nancy Mace?
I do them every year.
Every year?
You want to keep going?
Do any more this
you want
year?
to keep going and keep harassing me? You could have gone to a dozen town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Okay, so in case you didn't understand it, this guy was asking her when she's going to do another town hall. And she, reacted this way, and then she figured she would turn the camera on.
She got triggered.
Yeah, she would turn the camera on and get this, because this is going to make her look really brave. Berating a gay man in a makeup store for asking when her next town hall is. Yes, that's holding the line.
I do them every year.
Every year.
You want to keep going?
Do any more this
you want to keep going and keep harassing me? You could have gone to a dozen town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Are you doing a town
I've
hall
already
this year?
done one. I'll do plenty
Are you
more.
doing any more this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. We'll look
And
out
by
for
the
an
way,
actual invitation.
I voted for gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do with
So
me?
I'm just saying, it has to everything to do with you.
You think everything about me has to do with gay marriage?
I do,
That's
absolutely.
your first stance when you
Yep.
speak with me?
Absolutely.
There's no other humane
If you want to get in my
conversation you
face
can
about
have
town
me.
halls, you should have shown up
There's
to one
no
last
other humane
year.
thing you can talk about me just saying, oh,
Okay, first of all, if this guy's goal was to get in her face and cause a scene, he'd be filming her. Like,
Right,
he would, if he
exactly.
were trying to antagonize her, hey, Nancy, when's your next town hall? He'd have come up to her with the camera. He clearly is not,
Right.
does not have a camera.
Nobody even would have known about this if she hadn't filmed it.
Right, nobody would have known. Nobody knows. So if he was doing this to antagonize, he would have had the camera, obviously.
with me.
Absolutely.
There's no other humane
If you want to get in my
conversation you
face
can
about
have
town
me.
halls, you should have shown up
There's
to
no
one
other
last
humane
year.
thing you can talk about me just saying, oh, I support gay marriage.
Yeah,
That's the
because
only
you're
thing
getting
you
in
have
my
to
face
say.
about a town hall. You
All I
could have
was
gone
asking one
last year.
simple question from
Would
right
you
over
like
here
me?
is if you have any plans to have more town hall this year.
I have town
That was
halls
one
every year.
question.
I have over a dozen
Okay.
every year.
Great. That was my entire question. You didn't have to go
Yeah,
into the spiel about
you could
everything
have.
else
You could have come to any of them last year.
Okay. And I'm
I had
asking you
over a
about this year, not
dozen.
2024. But
Where
for
were you the year
right?
before that,
Okay.
or the year before that?
It was a simple
Oh,
question. I
because
asked
you know
if
what?
you have
Because you
any more that
people
you're
on the
going to
left
this
are
year or not.
crazy.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely fucking crazy.
I'm absolutely fucking
You are,
crazy.
and get out of my face. Goodbye.
You're insane.
Fuck you.
You're gonna fuck me. You're
Yep.
gonna be voted
Bye.
out so fast this year. I
I'm
can't
not.
wait for you to fucking
I'm not.
go
I
into
won
the
by
dirt.
so much.
You're a disgrace to the state. That's what you are. You're a disgrace. I asked you a simple question, and you just to go on this tirade and tell me "fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you.
Fuck
Before
you.
that, or the year before that.
It was a simple question.
Oh, because you know what? Because you people on the left are crazy.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely fucking crazy.
I'm absolutely fucking crazy.
You are, and get out of my face.
You're insane.
Goodbye.
You're insane.
Fuck you.
You're gonna fuck me. You're gonna be voted
bye.
out so fast this year.
I'm not. I'm not. I won by so much.
You're a disgrace.
Fuck
to the
you.
state. That's what you are. You're a disgrace. I asked you a simple question, and you just to go on this tirade and tell me "fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you.
Disgusting.
Get out of my face.
Fuck you. How about
Get out of my face. Try it again. What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Yep, I sure did. Absolutely. Get the fuck out of my face. Now. Fuck you.
Wow.
You couldn't take me on, baby. Stay the fuck away from me.
She calls him back over. He leaves, and she's like, "Get back here, tell me your name." Then he comes back, "Get the fuck out of my face." What a lunatic. What a fucking lunatic. And she posts this as if he's the lunatic. Now, okay, here's how you know how this went. So Colin Rugg, who is, you know, a fairly MAGA-oriented handle. He's not one of the real diehards like the Benny Johnsons and the libs of TikTok and the Eric Dohertys. Those are first of all, that whole crop of influencers, I'm going to start calling them mouth shitters because that's what they are. They shit in your mouth. Yeah. They make money shitting in the mouth of the chuds. That's what they do. And no matter what they say, cat turd, you know, those kinds of people. So he's not quite a mouth shitter, but he's pretty close. I mean,
it's such an easy way to make money.
Of course, it's the easiest.
It really it's so because they're so dumb.
Right.
It's not hard to figure out what you need to give them to make them happy.
Right. And you just tweet that.
Say it. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You figure, okay, what do the morons want me to say? I'll just say it.
The Democrats are going to El Salvador talking about due process. Talk about the guy being an MS-13 child, you know.
Right.
And so
exactly.
Fill in the blank.
Right. That's all you have to do. Now, Colin Rugg is not quite one of those.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. He's not, but he's close. I mean, look, this is Colin Rugg's profile. Co-owner of Trending Politics, investor, American, Cybertruck, right? I mean, he's a right-wing guy. Mm-hmm. And even he says, Representative Nancy Mace claims a man was harassing her after he asked if she was going to have any town hall events this year, suggests he needs to respect her because she voted for gay marriage. Mind-blowing she posted this. That's right. It is mind-blowing that she posted this and thought that was a good look. Empire of Lies says, did you forget to take your medication, you freak? You're an embarrassment to your district, your state, and the House of Representatives. And hopefully next election, you'll be voted out of office. Blakely says, harassing your own constituents. Damn, you're a loser. That's right. She turned the camera on and started saying, fuck you, fuck you. Patrick says, do you just fight gay people every day? Don't you have a job? Why are you always fighting with some new gay or lesbian on my timeline? Jesus fucking Christ, do your job and stop being an idiot. But yeah, no, this is her whole brand now, is hold the line. Don't forget, she fired off how many? I forget the exact amount, but it was well over 200 tweets in something like 12 hours about Sarah McBride, the trans
Was it
congresswoman,
200?
About where she went to the bathroom. Yeah, some insane amount. It was like a tweet every 5 minutes for like 12 hours on average. Yeah, just totally insane. So this is her brand now, is holding the line. And here she is, really, really hogging the camera about this. Figure she'll make hay out of this. She posted a video after the event talking about
with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom.
Exactly, yes. Talking about her new comms director and recapping the experiences she just had.
University of South Carolina, we are doing Turning Point USA tonight. That's Sydney in the back, just got promoted to comms director today, youngest comms director on the Hill. And she was just saying, your first day, when you came work for me last year, your first day of work, what was it?
George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, it was George Stephanopoulos was her first day when she ever worked for me for the very first time. And then today, her first day as comms director is Daisy Duke's day. Yeah, that guy. It's not the first time I've ever used language with people before, and it certainly won't be the last. You don't have the right to harass me. It's not ever going to be okay. And if you want to get in my face, expect it right back, and I will record you, and I will make you famous.
Wow. She's really proud of herself. She was also going on Sean Hannity's show last night, where she teased out Mr. Daisy Dukes isn't going to like this one. We're going to hold the line. See you tonight on Sean Hannity. There she is getting ready for her big appearance. And here she is on the Sean Hannity show recapping. It's funny to hear her explanation next to the B-roll.
Going on behind the scenes, and how did the issue of gay rights come up in that conversation?
Well, right. I just wanted some face wash. That was it. I went to the store. I had a little bit of time to myself on Saturday afternoon, want to go shopping like I do. I'm a normal person. I do my own grocery shopping. And this guy approached me, and I will tell you, I felt threatened. I felt harassed. And I will tell you, as someone who's experienced
That's a very
trauma in her
guy,
life,
yeah.
and a lot of women will understand what I'm talking about when some guy gets in your face.
Yeah, tell me this is not snowflakeism, wokeism.
That's the language.
Right.
I've experienced trauma in my life. This guy could not be less threatening. Yet you called him out as a gay dude, which, let's face it, she's almost certainly right. You're intimidated by this guy? Like, does this guy seem like somebody who's going to body check you in the store? Really?
Yeah. No, everyone who's not either a Republican or an Israeli can't ever claim to be threatened or traumatized, or have PTSD or can't ever advocate for a safe space for themselves. Only, I guess, Republicans and Israelis have the right to safe spaces. They have the right to be taken seriously when they say they felt threatened, they felt scared. You turn the camera on to film him. If he was all about getting into a confrontation with you, he'd have filmed it. That's the whole point of getting into a conversation
Which,
with people these
frankly,
days.
as long as he didn't start, physically intimidating you or harassing you. Welcome to show business, sweetheart. You're a public figure. You're a politician. He's a constituent. He has a right to ask you questions.
He has the right to ask you when your town hall
These
is.
people love to go on about their fucking Boston Tea Party.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And Lexington, Concord. Okay, so what do you think that was all about? Right?
Yeah.
Do you think it wasn't the polite kind of tea party?
Well,
Maybe
also...
Maybe they think it was a tea party. Yeah. Cubes of sugar, that kind of thing.
He's also clearly very conscious of the space between him and her. He's clearly making a conscious effort
He's making
not
sure
to get in
not
her
to be
space.
too close.
He's making sure he's not too close to her. Yes.
Oh, he doesn't want to get sent to CCON.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And approaches you in the aggressive manner that he did, and you feel like you're in danger.
The guy spends half the video running away from
as women who've been through trauma, who've survived sexual assault, survived domestic abuse. You have two options. You can fight or you can flee. And
like
Sean,
she's asking
I'm
for
a fighter.
safe space.
And I've never stood back down from a fight. I will stand my ground like any strong woman should. And I will tell you, this was the third incident I had last week alone. The incidences of threats.
Said this, they'd be all over.
Oh, yeah. No, if AOC said this, they'd be dragging
It's
her.
all the language. It's all the language. Oh, I'm a strong woman. It's all that.
Right.
It's all the stuff I thought they hate.
Yeah. Exactly.
Any strong woman should. And I will tell you, this was the third incident I had last week alone. The incidences of threats, the threat of violence, the people coming up and harassing me in public has increased exponentially over the last 6
Oh, but you didn't film those, did you? You didn't film those. So the other incidents where you felt sincerely threatened, I guess maybe you didn't film those. You decided to turn your camera on when it was this guy asking you when your next town hall is at a makeup store. That either means those other things didn't happen, or maybe if they did happen, and certainly we do not condone any kind of threats or anything like that, it means that you felt especially secure in this interaction, which is why you reached for the phone and made a big thing out of it. You clearly were not frightened.
Right.
That's clearly an absurd claim.
months since I came out standing up against the trans community, standing up against men in women's dresses. And I just had an event at the University of South Carolina about an hour ago. I wrapped it up, and a man in a dress picked up a potted plant and acted like he was going to throw it against me. I just posted that video on Twitter.
We'll show that in a second. I got to play this, though.
You can follow it at Nancy Mace or nancymace.org. You can find it online. But my security team thought he was going to throw the plant at me because I used the word babe. He was offended by it. And then I used the word trans, and he was more offended by it. But the lunatics on the left.
Okay, that's a lie, as we'll see, as your own video disproves. You used a slur for trans, which we're not allowed to say here I don't think, on YouTube. I'm certainly not going to risk it because it'll get the video demonetized. And, we'll happily get videos demonetized if it's to cover Israel, Gaza, things like that. But I'm not covering Nancy Mace unless I get paid. Yeah.
Is it what?
We're not doing this for free.
Does it rhyme with granny?
Yeah, exactly. That's what she called it.
I knew it right off the top of my head.
Yeah, exactly. So it's and we'll see that in the video.
Savage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we'll see that in the video. She didn't say trans. She used a deliberately, provocative and insulting slur. And it's amazing because she posted the video and she just says here on Hannity, yeah, then I used the word trans and they got really offended.
You can find it online, but my security team thought he was going to throw the plant at me because I used the word babe. He was offended by it. And then I used the word trans and he was more offended by it. But the lunatics on the left, they're dangerous and women need to stand up for themselves. And I was the first member of Congress to say, I'm going to hold the line for women and girls everywhere. And since that time, the amount of aggression that I've had from mentally ill men, from men in dresses, from men approaching me in public like this guy, this Daisy Dukes guy, the short shorts guy, just as I was trying to buy face wash. It's not okay. And condoning this kind of behavior is only going to lead to violence.
Okay, it's only going to lead to violence. Very good. Okay, so here's the interaction then. I guess maybe this was at the Turning Points event that she was on her way to.
And that video certainly makes that point.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I can see how this is escalating to violence, and hey, we've covered this subject a lot. I'm not saying there are no people taking advantage of this issue to push a fetish or a mental illness. I feel like that's a verboten conversation. They don't want to talk about autogynephilia, and I think there is a lot of that, and I think that is a big part of what's boosted the numbers of people identifying this way to such an extent. But that is not what this is about for her. She's kind of the Joe McCarthy of trans issues. By all accounts, Joe McCarthy didn't really care about communism. He saw it as a politically advantageous issue, and he decided to own it and make it his brand. Seems like that's what this is for Nancy Mace.
Oh, well, it certainly is. I mean, she was proud to tout her pro-gay marriage vote to that guy.
Right,
and if you go back, you can see tweets supportive of the LGBTQ community. And now this is a convenient pivot for her. But here's the interaction in question, which she referenced on Hannity.
Your husband call you babe? I'm not married. Okay, so even better. And I don't care. Okay, so I would like for you to apologize, but it is derogatory, and second of all,
I muted it so we don't get the thing.
Of course the fucker is.
Yeah. If that's derogatory,
and then there's the picking up of the plant. So
and turning away from her.
Right. So she slurs her as a provocation.
So it's her plant.
I mean, I don't know if
she
put
plant. It down. No, yeah, because the purse is under the
She
plant.
takes it with her. There seems to be another plant that looks just like it on the other side of the podium, so I don't really know why. I don't know why she picked up the plant, but she wasn't going to throw it. I mean, it didn't look like she was getting ready to throw it at her. It looked like she picked it up. Okay, so she deliberately provokes her with a slur there, right? Is that derogatory real?
Second of all.
Right.
Of course it is.
Of course the fucker is.
And then she says it 4 more times. Then he picks the plant up and puts it. I don't know why he took the plant, but then she takes the purse. I don't know what the plant thing was about, but she clearly did not seem like she was getting ready to throw it at her. I mean, you can't throw a plant at a congressperson.
Literally walked away with it.
I mean, she clearly gets it and transfers it to the other hand. There's clearly intent to transfer to the other hand. Look, slow motion.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, she clearly was not going to throw.
Well,
throw the plant at her.
Look, I mean, Mace lied about the terms that she used.
Right.
So of course she's going to lie about that too.
She wouldn't even own that she slurred her. She wouldn't own that she slurred her, and she said that slur many times in Congress before. But she wouldn't say that on Hannity. She wouldn't say I slurred her. No, she would say, "Oh, then I used the word trans, and she got insulted." Well, clearly she didn't use the word trans. She did that she used a intentionally provocative language to get a rise out of her.
Yeah, I think to stand
Probably,
out in,
sorry to cut you off, is probably hoping for an overreaction so she can claim that she's
course,
holding the
just
line
to-
against
yeah,
violence. Right, try
being,
to provoke her into throwing
yeah,
something at you so that you can be the strong woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to stand out in Congress. We do this for a living, and all the time there are stories about Congress people, like we're about to cover the Congress people who went down to El Salvador. I've only heard of one of those Congress people out of four.
Right.
I only heard of one of them. So I think if you want to promote your brand, for a lot of these Congress people, it's like being a podcaster. You know, they don't really care about being in Congress and serving the public. They care about promoting their brand. You know, that leads to books, that leads to speaking tours.
Exactly.
Once you get out of Congress, you can, if you were a known quantity, you can get onto boards of directors, you can get consultancies, you get lobbying gigs, right? But not if you're a backbencher nobody ever heard of.
Right.
Yeah. So it's career advancement.
Yes, of course. Of course. That is 100% what it is. She's a complete opportunist. Even in this respect, she's really not sincere. And I mean, just imagine the reaction if a Democratic congressperson screamed, "Fuck you."
Oh, yeah.
and had a voter for asking when their next town hall was.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And her whole shtick is everything that these anti-woke conservatives claim to hate.
Right.
I've been traumatized. I felt unsafe. This guy?
Right.
This guy?
Yeah.
This guy made you feel unsafe. Come on.
Yeah. No. Just completely ridiculous. Alexis Helwig, thanks for the $5.99. Wow, didn't expect this. Thank you so much. No, of course, we will show the song on Sunday's show. Thank you for making it. The Yuppies says, Keaton, your speech at the end of last episode was righteous. All about human rights. God bless you, gentlemen. Thank you, the Yuppies. Appreciate it. Glad you liked it. We aim to please. Just in time, don't forget, if he is elected Pope, his last name won't be Pizzaballa anymore.
Well, that's what we're saying. They should give him a waiver to keep that name.
They should. They got to give him a waiver. I mean, you got to keep Pizzaballa. I mean, we'll know it.
Pope Pizzaballa.
Pope
Come on.
Pizzaballa.
Come on. You want to start to reverse those recruitment numbers?
Exactly.
Pope Pizzaballa. That's the way to do it.
I would join. Who wouldn't join a group head by Pierre Battista Pizzaballa?
I'm there.
It's got such rhythm, too. The first name, Pierre Battista, really adds to it. Pierre Battista Pizzaballa.
It's perfect.
4 syllables each is perfect. What a perfect name. Somebody in my when I was a kid, I forget who it was. My brother had a speech therapist when he was a kid, so maybe it was her. She had a beautiful name, Maddalena Casabianca. What a beautiful name, right? Yeah, it's a beautiful name.
That is a nice name.
And then
where is he based? Is he in Italy?
I would have guessed so. Yeah. But then she married a guy whose last name was Reed, and she did the hyphenated last name. So her new name was Maddalena Casabianca Reed. That was the new name. Kind of ruined it. The Reed kind of kills it.
I could see that. Yeah.
You gotta keep your name if you have a name that good. All right, let's keep on keeping on here. All right.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, you forgot to do that. All right, here I'll do the scroll while you load in the stuff. All right, folks. So we're gonna do the scroll right now while Russell preps this next piece here. If you like what we do, you can help us do more of it by becoming a member. Go to patreon.com/DoDissidents or DoDissidents.substack.com. Or, wait a minute, did Jake, have I not seen this the whole time? DoDissidents.com/sub. Where does that go? I never even noticed that he made that link. Oh, yeah, that takes you to the Patreon. So that's cool. So you can go to the link that's right on there, DoDissidents.com/sub. That takes you to our Patreon. Or you can join our Substack or our locals, DoDissidents.locals.com. For $5 a month, you get your name up in lights here on the scroll. You also get call-in access to all of our post-show Q&As, which happen every Sunday night. You get 2 bonus live streams per month. You get live stream access to our pre-recorded interviews, and you get full-length, ad-free replays of all of our streams the day after they air. People love that feature because Rumble has ads, YouTube has ads, and so if you want to watch the ad-free live stream just as though you were watching live, but if you miss it or you catch only part of it, you get that emailed to your inbox the following day, the day after the stream, by signing up at dudissidents.locals.com. You can also join our Patreon or our Substack, patreon.com/dudissidents or dudissidents.substack.com. Perks are the same across all of those member platforms. It helps us out tremendously if you become a member. The members are the backbone of the show. We absolutely could not do this without our members. We also want to expand our on-the-ground reporting operation that involves hiring people, that requires steady revenue streams that are not dependent on YouTube advertising whims or monetization standards or anything like that. So the best way to keep us afloat, by far, no question about it, is to become a member, dudissidents.locals.com, and you get all those perks for the low price of $50 a year or $5 a month. So thank you all very much for your support. All right, Russell, are we ready?
Almost.
All right, almost ready. All right, let's take a look here. EO Shush, Robert Serra is the Herman Cain of conservative popes candidates and his 666 plan. That's funny. Yes, the opposite of 999. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that. Let's see. EO Shush says a lot of Trump derangement syndrome on this channel lately with Trump tariff and economic plan. That's because your peasant mind can't understand the art of the deal. Trust the process, bro. Thank you, EO Shush. Appreciate that very much. Trust the plan, right? That's their go-to now. Trust the plan.
5D chess.
5D chess. Trust the plan. Exactly. Nina Kant says, look like Nancy is making her wish list for the next people to be sent to CCOT. The hate leadership has for regular people. Yep, that is right. They have a lot of contempt for the people out there. No question about that. No question about that. All right, what are we looking at? What are we looking at?
Just one more. I got to go.
All right, Russell's got to get one more piece. So then we will be starting on that. Let me see if there is...
All right, I got it.
Got it? Okay. Let me just check one more thing. Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
More Democratic lawmakers are visiting El Salvador on Abrego Garcia's behalf. So 4 more Congress people went down. Representatives Yasamin Ansari of Arizona, Maxine Dexter of Oregon, Maxwell Frost of Florida, and Robert Garcia of California arrived Sunday in the Central American nation to investigate the condition of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who had lived in the United States for more than a decade. The Trump administration deported him, a move that administration officials have said in court filings was done in error. That's something that's very important to remember. With all the coverage of this, they concede that he shouldn't have been deported. Any argument predicated on he was here illegally, the administration itself acknowledges that a court had a stay on the deportation order and they should not have deported him. That is something that is agreed on by all parties. But despite a Supreme Court ruling that ordered the Trump administration to help facilitate Abrego Garcia's return, the administration has said it has no power to bring him back, a position being scrutinized by federal courts as potentially in violation of judicial rulings. For anyone who doesn't know, they are arguing that for a court to compel them to act now that he's in El Salvador is to interfere in foreign policy where the president has authority, which means theoretically they could oopsie you to a foreign country and no court could bring you back. That's why we care about this. Whether or not Abrego Garcia is a member of MS-13, you know who should decide that? A court. A court.
And
Okay.
for those who missed it, the reason he was given a stay is because the court deemed that he was at risk of falling victim to gang violence should he return, because according to them, the reason he came in the first place, his mother sent him because the family was being shaken down by a gang, by Barrio 18.
By Barrio 18.
Right. Now, if the administration has evidence counter to that can prove he's in a gang, as Russell said, you present that to a judge. You don't present that on Truth Social. You don't present that through Meet the Press. You present that in a court. That's as simple as it gets.
Au contraire. I just want to say this. I don't know if this is really RT's account. There are a lot of posts coming from it. I know RT, this is under the previous administration, was essentially shut down and banned from operating. So I don't know what's going on there, but almost all of their posts about this, and they have quite a few, look like they came off Benny Johnson's burner. So here you see complete waste of time and money. Like all of their posts are like that. Like it doesn't sound like RT. So I don't know what's going on over there. But this is Maxwell Frost shortly after their arrival.
What do you know? Is there any chance you'll be meeting with Abrego Garcia while you're there?
Well, we're actually about to do a press conference to speak a little bit about this, but we got word at the embassy that our request has been denied by the government here locally. They say it's because we're not here on an official capacity. This is part of the reason why Representative Robert Garcia and I sent a letter to Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee asking for this to be an official CODEL. But we're not giving up. We're going to continue. We have more meetings scheduled for the rest of the day. But part of this, too, is making sure that we keep the conversation alive. We're building off of the trip of Senator Van Hollen, and we're not the first members here, and we're not going to be the last.
So Garcia also, in another appearance, called for regular delegations to be going down there. But to what he's talking about, Comer is very, very proud of this. So the fact that he denied them official recognition. Now, with the official recognition, not only would they have more ability to pressure the government in El Salvador, as he indicates, to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia, it also gets paid for by Congress. Now, Republicans have been going down there. They've been going down there to go, yeah, I like the look of this prison. We guys have one of these up in the U.S. So Republicans have been getting funding to tour CCOT and approve it. But they won't give it to Democrats to try to see this wrongly imprisoned man.
You also, as chairman, have some duties and responsibilities, and that is signing off on travel for members of Congress who maybe want to go to El Salvador to meet with people who have been deported. What's your take on this? What are you going to do with this?
Well, I had two members of the House Oversight Committee, Garcia from California and Frost from Florida, and they sat there silent during the entire Biden investigation, during the entire investigation of Border Patrol and Mayorkas that we had in the Oversight Committee. If anything, they were obstructive. They weren't concerned. They showed no concern for the lack of our national security or the violation of our southern border security laws. But then this one person that the liberal media picked up on that was deported to El Salvador, they went crazy before it came out that he was actually an MS-13 gang member, and they wanted me to authorize funding at my committee's expense to send them down to El Salvador and meet with this person for a photo op and to have margaritas and enjoy the sunny weather. And I obviously denied their request. We're not going to spend a penny of taxpayer dollars for liberal Democrats to continue their stunts to try to appease the radical left-wing base when the American people spoke loud and clear on Election Day. They want our southern border secured, and they want criminal illegals deported, and that's exactly what Donald Trump's doing.
As we'll see more in the B side of this, this is what they're going to do. They're going to make it as if this is an immigration issue because they can read a poll. They know that deporting criminal, illegal immigrants or aliens is, 80%, 90% issue. They want to make it about everything but due process, because you showed a poll the other day. You ask people, do you think that the president should be able to defy a court order? And I think it's something like 80% no. But then if you ask them, do you think they should be forced to bring back an illegal immigrant, what was it, like 72% say no?
Right. Now, that's amongst Republicans, very importantly. Amongst the general public, this is not a winning issue for Trump if, keyword, and this is why even the PodSave guys were pissed off that a lot of Democrats didn't want to lean into this issue, because if you can make this a due process issue, you have the public on your side 2-1.
Right.
Only 35%
Right.
of Americans think that Trump should defy a judge's order to undo
Right.
a wrongful deportation. 76% of Republicans do, but big picture, it's a loser for them if, very importantly, you make this about due process. If you make it about immigration, then that's where the issue can get lost. And if the propaganda is strong enough, because just about everything Comer said, there was a lie. They did not drink margaritas. Of
course.
Right. But if you let them frame it that way, then they will have the public on their side. That's why it's important to fight on this issue. Because once people understand what the issue is about, they overwhelmingly oppose defying a court order to undo a wrongful deportation. Overwhelmingly.
And this is why they're making it about everything but that. If you look at, did he say the words due process? Not once. He talks about margaritas, which has been completely debunked.
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
In order
to get drunk with gang members. Yeah, that's what they're
yeah,
doing. They
that's
think
what
that's
he
a great
went down
look.
there for. Yeah, hey,
That's
I'm
a great
gonna go
look.
down.
Cigars, margarita. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We'll get some hookers. We'll,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly,
I'll get some tats. I'll get some gang tats down there.
Right.
According to Van Hollen, originally Bukele tried to put them by a poolside, which Van Hollen wisely refused.
Right.
And then while they were talking, if you look at the early pictures, they just have coffee cups there.
Right.
And then while they were talking, they put these margaritas there. But if you look at the lip of the margarita, the salt stays untouched. So clearly nobody drank it. But they're just gonna run with that because yes, if they can make it these Democrats are going to have a tropical vacation to free a gangbanger.
Right.
That's a winning issue. If it's a illegally deported somebody with no due process, that's a loser. So here's a little bit from the press conference that they gave.
Our decision has come down to say you need to facilitate the return of this man back to the United States so he can go through due process. And the administration is saying, no, we're not going to do it. In fact, we just had a meeting earlier today with the embassy. We left that meeting with absolutely zero indication that this administration has is going to facilitate or wants to facilitate the return of Brego Garcia back to the United States so he can go through due process. But we got to be clear, this isn't just about him. This is also about every single person in the United States. The Constitution applies to all people in our country. Due process applies to all people in our country. It's one of the things that sets our country apart from other places across the entire world.
You know, and it's very funny because he's right about that. And also, you know, so many people who are thrilled to defend the administration's position here, they don't have to bring him back, are the same people who will celebrate that we have unique First Amendment rights.
Right.
Look what they're doing to people in Europe and in Canada because they don't have a First Amendment. So among the few things that are unique to America that are positive, unlike, say, lack of universal health care, you want to destroy the few things we have going for us that actually are better than what you find in the rest of the world, like due process, like a First Amendment. You love the First Amendment until they start locking up college students and deporting people for writing op-eds.
Right.
Then all of a sudden it's not a big deal anymore. So here's Garcia pointing out, we haven't even seen the agreement that was made by Bukele. Not the first to point that out.
Absolutely want that contract between the United States and El Salvador to be made public. So that we should understand what funds are being transferred over to support the prisons, and we should make that public. Nosotros queremos, en español.
Okay, yeah. I mean, if everything's above board here, why don't they just put out that contract instead of giving that talking point to the opposition? What are they trying to hide? Why don't they want to show people what Rubio agreed to? Here, Frost went on with Will Cain, and Will Cain basically argued that because Frost expressed past skepticism of this conservative Supreme Court, why is he supporting their decision now?
Be a thing that Democrats, Republicans, everybody are coming behind.
Bring the guy home so he can go through due process. That is what the Supreme Court, the conservative-leaning Supreme Court said.
Congressman, from this vantage point, respectfully, if you haven't always been dedicated to these principles, if you in fact have called the Supreme Court of the United States illegitimate very recently, and if you can acknowledge that Abrego Garcia is not your average American citizen, and his circumstances are not anyone watching that is ready to be deported from the United States, from this vantage point, respectfully, it appears as though your trip to El Salvador is less about principle and even less about Abrego Garcia and more about grandstanding and fear-mongering American citizens in a continuing narrative that casts yourself as a hero in this melodrama and the villain as Donald Trump.
I am no hero at this moment. I am one of many fighting for the rule of law and fighting to ensure that everybody in this country have due process. I am one of many. I'm not the first member of Congress here, and I'm sure as hell not going to be the last. This isn't about Maxwell Frost. This is about preventing our country from losing what makes it exceptional, that no matter who you are, when you are in the United States, you have due process. That is one of the many things that sets us apart from other places in this world. And as a member of the United States Congress, I'm going to fight like hell to preserve that no matter what.
Well, I wish you wouldn't scare the average American citizen based upon this, but I do agree with you, and we'll be watching your career, that you're always dedicated to the concept of due process, and we do wish you luck, by the way, in El Salvador in locating Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We also appreciate you joining us all the way from El Salvador today. Thank you, Congressman.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, so this is a talking point we saw also when we covered the abortion story, where you had that cheap Hulk Hogan knockoff screaming about, you're scaring women! The liberal media is scaring women! So it seems like this is one of their fallback talking points, that by just reporting on what they're actually doing, you're scaring the American public. Now, this is a political party and a political movement whose main stock in trade is scaring the living shit out of people about the gang member who's going to break in your back door and brutally murder you if you don't give up all of your civil liberties to a king.
Yeah.
But it's the media reporting on it that's scaring people.
Well, you know, he later admitted, if I knew you had this, I would have showed you this, and I could show you the video right now if you want. It's short. He later admitted that he was wrong to basically accuse him of baselessly fear-mongering, because he later admitted that Trump had floated the idea of sending homegrowns there. He said that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and then he said, I still refuse to apologize.
Yeah, sure.
So here's what he says. So here's his sorry, not sorry post-interview.
I challenged him, by the way, on the idea that President Trump wanted to deport homegrown citizens. Here is the clip referenced by Maxwell Frost from the Oval Office of President Trump talking about homegrown criminals.
I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
And he goes on right after that to say, but we have to obey the law. It will always be to obey the law. After years of very fine people, among other hoaxes, I'm suspicious of any Democrat quoting President Trump in full context. And I make no apologies, none, on not being able to know or recall that specific clip, because it doesn't reinforce my fever dream Handmaid's Tale vision of America, where Lily, who reads The Bulwark on the Upper West Side, is about to be deported right after Kilmar Abrego Garcia. President Donald Trump was clearly talking about obeying the law. I'm doubtful the law would allow him to deport homegrown criminals. But it's a far cry, again, from the Handmaid's Tale vision of the next after Abrego Garcia is you.
So basically, I'm a professional news anchor, and he was right, I was wrong, but I'm not sorry anyway. Fuck you.
Because it still wouldn't possibly happen, even though Trump wants it to happen.
Right, exactly.
It's
still not legitimate to raise that.
He has stated the intention of making that happen. And given that this whole thing is predicated on their contention that once you're out of the boundaries of the United States, the courts have no jurisdiction. Yeah, I mean, they probably won't go after the Upper West Side COVIDian But they could very well go after the journalist.
Right.
They could very well go after the activist. Once they're gone, how are you going to get them back?
That's
if you allow this precedent to stand, how are you going to get them back?
Right.
On what grounds?
Right.
So there's a statement from the family. We're deeply grateful to the members of Congress and advocates for justice now on the ground in El Salvador, building on the leadership of Senator Van Hollen. We are particularly concerned about Kilmar's health and hope to receive news about that from the visit. Their presence sends a powerful message. The fight to bring Kilmar home isn't over. So, yes, again, it's really not about this man. If you believe he's a member of MS-13, prove it in court. That's what Van Hollen keeps pointing out. These Democratic representatives who are going down there, I think, are representing our political system in a better light than we usually see it, because frankly, I don't see a lot of upside for them to doing this. They're just making themselves the target of a MAGA media pile-on to completely distort their motives and to obscure what they're actually arguing. I haven't heard any of them really argue whether he's MS-13 or not.
Right.
They're saying this is a due process issue, and that's it. That's what it's about. It's not about him. It's about us. It's about all of us and protecting ourselves, especially podcasters.
Yeah, right. Especially podcasters. Yeah, exactly. No, look, I mean, that's totally true. And, this is why you're not seeing swing state or swing district Democrats go down there. You're seeing Democrats from safe districts and safe states go down there. The Democratic House leadership refused to fund their trips, which is why they had to fundraise independently on their own to get these trips to go down there, because yes, Democratic leadership understands the political risk here. And of course, the Democrats are, for the most part, gutless cowards who don't want to take that political risk and don't want to make the argument that, yes, what they are doing is not only, I mean, in Van Hollen's case, he's literally representing a constituent, but they are representing all of us by going down there. Like, and that's a point that, Hakeem Jeffries is too chicken shit to make. Chuck Schumer is too chicken shit to make. I mean, you know what we think of the Democrats as a whole. If they actually had some courage and conviction and were willing to make that case, where the messaging could just be all day, every day, that they are there not just fighting for one man's due process, they're fighting for every person's due process, so that we all get to live with peace of mind knowing that due process is alive and well in America. That's a winning message. Polling shows that's an overwhelmingly winning message. I mean, 76% of Republicans are against it, but that means 22% of Republicans are. Like, it's kind of significant that 1 in 4 to 5 Republicans even are like, no, I don't. That means you get 5 Trumpers in a room. One of them is like, I don't know about this. This sounds too much. That's significant. It's a winning issue for them. Most Democrats are afraid to make it, but good on this crop of Democrats who figure, all right, well, hey, look, I mean, if we're not frontline members, if we don't have to worry about a tight race in 2 years, we're just going to go because we have to. And it's important. And we're not used to giving politicians credit on this show, but I do in this case.
No, we generally do not. And hey, look, as we're going to see next, MAGA is on message. The Republicans are on message. They have a very clear message. Clearly, the word went out. Make it about MS-13. Make it about Democrats taking exotic vacations. Make it about how out of touch they are with American voters. Make it about how they didn't care about North Carolina, but they care about criminal gangbangers. Make it about that. Make it about everything but due process. And you can see that the talking points went out. I'm going to show you, like, there are certain very clear themes that they're all hitting the same notes. They're all singing from the same hymnal. The Democrats, you got a few voices in the wilderness, and most of them are hiding.
Right. Exactly. All right, let's go right into the B, and then we'll take a super chat break before the last piece.
All right. So setting the tone, the Senate Republicans put together a digital ad, a mock vacation ad. Here we go.
Welcome to El Salvador, home to breathtaking sunsets, world-class surf breaks, and gangbanger Kilmer Abrego Garcia. El Salvador is the destination for Democrats seeking the thrill of bringing violent criminal illegal aliens back to America. Come witness Trump derangement syndrome in its purest form. From Chris Van Hollen to Cory Booker. You may even see John Ossoff. So what are you waiting for, Senate Democrats? Join your colleagues and step into the rhythm of rescue today.
So that's kind of the overall theme they're going to go with. Here's Bukele trolling Maxwell Frost by digging up this tweet from 2016. Fucking with my Kang, gun get you spilled, which presumably was put out as a joke. We don't know what the context was. But we do know the context would be, he would have been, I think, 19 then, because he's 28 now.
Right.
So he would have been about 19 then. So this is what they're digging up on him. Libs of TikTok. This is the Democratic Party. 4 elected Democrats in El Salvador campaigning for the release of an MS-13 foreign terrorist gang member and alleged wife beater. So this is one theme. You're going to see the 3 main strains they're going with.
Again, these are the mouth shitters. That is all they do. All
Yep.
they have to do for money. Yeah.
That's it. It's such an easy gig. That's why I've always said we don't hear this too much anymore, because I think even people who hate us, we've proven our bona fides. But to call us a grifter, the real insult is you're calling us stupid.
Right.
You're saying we're too stupid to grift, because this is the way. If we were going to grift, this is what we would do.
Of course.
We would go all in on this all day and all night. We would do MAGA outrage porn all day, all day. Benny Johnson, Maryland Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor confirms Kilmar Abrego Garcia is 1,000% an MS-13 terrorist, slams Democrats for protecting him. Quote, he is certainly tied to the MS-13 gang, known for severe violence, murders, drugs, officials taking vacations to El Salvador. Terrible. How does he know? How does he know? He read the police report. That's how he knows.
Which everybody else read.
Yeah.
This image of Kilmar, the fact that his name's Kilmar is really something else. His fist with the MS-13 tattoos. Does this vibe with you? Have you seen,
absolutely.
Have you seen these
Yeah,
tattoos, Sheriff?
I've seen the tattoos, I've seen the pictures, I've seen the clothing, I've seen the reports of law enforcement and confidential informants stepping forward and confirming not only his place within the gang, but what some of the things that he is accused of doing in order to have the name that he had. I don't have those reports directly in front of me, but I've reviewed those reports as we've dug deeper into this issue and the visit to El Salvador again, and just how just tone deaf it is to go visit this individual in El Salvador. The talk that he was mistakenly deported. Well, he was deported by this administration, and as I understand it, that the immigration judge, 2 of them who heard the case, who also confirmed, both of them, that he was MS-13 member, agreed with his deportation, just not to El Salvador, and that's the big mistake that was made.
Okay. So even in the context of this piece, he's completely fucking wrong. That's not the mistake that was made. There was a hold on his deportation. The administration has admitted this. So this guy, this expert, he's telling you he knows he's an MS-13 because he read the same police report that's available to everybody else.
Right.
That's the special knowledge that he's claiming here.
Yeah.
So this is one tack they're taking, the most obvious, that he's MS-13.
That police report, sorry to cut you off, the same police report that led judges to determine that it was inconclusive and that
it was
he be granted a stay.
inconclusive.
Exactly.
Yes. Another tack they're taking is Hamas. You wouldn't have thought Hamas would get injected into this too. Laura Loomer. Incredible how Democrats will travel to El Salvador to demand the release of a member of MS-13, but they won't go to Gaza to demand Hamas release innocent American hostages. Democrats love criminals and terrorists. Speaks volumes, doesn't it? How much did Miriam give Laura?
Again, just right down the throat.
Yep. Ali London. One of these men is an American citizen kidnapped by Hamas and held hostage in Gaza for 559 days. The other is a migrant deported from the U.S. and imprisoned in El Salvador for being a suspected MS-13 gang member. Guess which one the Democrats are rallying to release? Actually, when Van Hollen, according to Van Hollen, when he asked the vice president of El Salvador why they were holding him, they said because they were being paid to.
Right.
They didn't say because he was suspected of being MS-13. In fact, according to Van Hollen, they conceded they didn't have any criminal record on this guy.
Yeah.
They're being paid to hold him.
This
human
guy,
trafficking.
Well, obviously, yes. And this guy is such an idiot. He even puts that he's suspected, which means it has not been proven. So he's saying we're holding a guy in a torture gulag based on a suspicion stemming from an accusation, not based on any knowledge.
Right.
Second,
with no due process, no pending trial.
You're really going to make the argument that the Democratic Party under Joe Biden, with the overwhelming support of the Democratic caucus, did not represent the interests of Israel in its quote-unquote effort to get the hostages back, even though they were offered the hostages back several times and made a point to sabotage every ceasefire deal that would have gotten the hostages back. Different conversation, I suppose. But what connects it to this is Democrats have backed Israel pretty much just the way Trump has. So you really can't say that they've abandoned the hostages, assuming you subscribe to the logic that Israel really wants the hostages back, which, of course, we don't. But within that context, even that's just a ridiculous point to make.
Well, Crazy Eyes Patel, before he got into the FBI directorship, said we don't prioritize Israel enough.
Exactly.
We're not prioritizing Israel enough. I thought he was gonna break up the deep state. What happened? Where are all these people going to jail? This is another tack they're taking, which is pretty fucking funny given recent events. Not a single Democrat flew to North Carolina when families' homes were destroyed by a hurricane, but they are traveling across the world to El Salvador. These Democrats should be expelled. Such a disgrace. You know, these people have the memories of garden snakes. Forgotten no more. Here's Donald Trump. He went to North Carolina. I will give him that. He went to North Carolina, and then he refused to extend their funding. Trump just denied North Carolina's request for FEMA relief from Hurricane Helene, calling it unwarranted. This is just last week. You want to start talking about how Democrats didn't go to North Carolina? Okay, he went to North Carolina. He used the people there as props and then turned down their request for an extension of FEMA relief.
Right.
That's I don't know that I'd want to bring up North Carolina right now, but they know who their audience is. They know their audience won't remember. It'll just go down the memory hole. So to put a button on it, Van Hollen summed up last week when he got back on Meet the Press what this is really about. And it is everything but what they want to talk about.
Donald Trump is trying to do is change the subject. Let's make no bones about that, right? This subject is that the Trump administration is ignoring a Supreme Court order 9-0 to facilitate his return because they admitted in court, the Trump administration, that he'd been wrongfully detained. Now, what I have said is Donald Trump and his administration need to put up or shut up in court. Instead of litigating this through social media, here's what the judge in the court case said, and I want to read it to be precise. On April 16th, she said that the Trump administration had presented no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or to any terrorist activity, end quote. So if you have evidence, take it to the court. That's where we litigate these things. And otherwise, just shut up on social media. And this is not about one man. If you deny the constitutional rights of one man, you threaten the constitutional rights for everybody.
That's it. That's it. And I'll also point out that hold on his deportation That happened under Trump 1, and they didn't challenge it.
Right.
Didn't challenge it. If he was such a clear MS-13 member, they were not friendly to immigrants back then.
No.
Why didn't they challenge it if it was so obvious this guy was in MS-13? The judge said they've presented no evidence he's in MS-13, but yet they keep repeating this. They have just shifted this, as they always do, to the war of words, and they're just trying to make it untenable for Democrats to continue to fight for the constitutional rights of Abrego Garcia. And in so doing, they're threatening the rights of every person in this country. That is what it's about.
100%. 100%. And this is why, going back to their fight to get the new, a MAGA Pope seated. They like being dominated. They like living under totalitarianism. That's what it is. They enjoy it. The fact that the idea that these people value liberty and freedom it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got one more piece to do. And before that, we're going to take some super chats and some Rumble rants here. Massimiliano Urbani says, love your work, boys. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Garnon from Australia. Thank you very much. Rentier Oligarch says, sorry, a little behind. Abrego Garcia may have been deported because he was apprenticing for a union. Naked Capitalism has an article showing how the deportations are an anti-labor strategy. Well, yeah, certainly not a pro-labor strategy. That rationale out the window, as far as I can see. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. I get nervous when those in power begin to lose the propaganda war, which is happening on immigration, Gaza, Ukraine. That a false flag operation is not far off the sheepdog citizenry into compliance. Yep, always a possibility. Absolutely. Eric Rousseau says Pope Pizzaballa the first. There you go. Yes, I'd like that.
I mean, come on.
Come on. You got to do it. Got to do it.
That is marketing.
That's marketing. Absolutely. All right, folks.
You introduce a special Pope Stromboli.
Yeah, the Stromboli. Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. We have one more piece on the day. All right. This is a terrible story out of Gaza, but one that I think we should share. Palestinian photographer Fatima Hassouna was killed along with 9 members of her family in an Israeli airstrike that targeted their home in Gaza on Wednesday. Hassouna, who had gained international recognition for her photojournalism documenting the impact of Israel's military campaign on Gaza's civilian population, was the central figure in a documentary by French-Iranian director Sepida Farsi, set to premiere at Cannes in May. So yes, the Cannes Film Festival is next month, and she was the subject of a new documentary film. Here's the video accompanying this tweet from Middle East Eye.
بالريح. أنا كتير بحس حالي بقمة سعادتي وأنا بصور مهما كانت اللحظة. بحس إني أنا قاعدة بعمل إشي، قاعدة بحقق إنجاز، قاعدة بساعد نفسي وأنا بصور وأنا بوثق وأنا بنشر للناس، بفرجي العالم شو يلي بصير. مش مهم كتير العالم بالنسبة لي إنه يشوف، قد ما هو مهم إني أنا شو بعمل، إنه قديش حيضل أثر الإشي اللي أنا بعمله. هل رح يضل خالد هذا الإشي؟ يعني أنا بسعى إنه صوري تضل خالدة، ورسالتي إنه للعالم إذا هم سايبيننا فإحنا قادرين نوقف على رجلينا حتى من دونهم، مش محتاجين حدا يجي ويحط كتفه عشان نحط إيدنا عليه نسند عليه.
So CNN reports Gaza journalist featured in new Cannes documentary killed in Israeli airstrike. Fatima Hassouna, a war documentarian who had covered the conflict in Gaza on the ground for 18 months and the subject of a new documentary to be screened at the Cannes Film Festival next month, was killed along with 7 members of her family in an Israeli airstrike this week. If I die, I want a resounding death. I do not want me in urgent news nor in a number with a group, Hassouna wrote in a post on Instagram in August 2024. I want a death that the world hears, an effect that remains for the extent of the ages, and immortal images that neither time nor space buries, added the photojournalist. The health ministry in Gaza told CNN on Friday that Hassouna's parents survived the strike on Wednesday, but both suffered critical injuries and are in an intensive care unit. The Palestinian Journalist Protection Center said it mourns the loss of Hassouna. It said that the strike that killed her targeted her family's home on Al-Nafaq Street in Gaza City and also killed several of her family members. It described the attack as a crime against journalists and a violation of international law. Fatima's powerful photos documenting life under siege were published globally, shedding light on the human toll of the war, the center said. The IDF on Wednesday said that the target was a terrorist in Hamas's Gaza City brigade and that steps were taken to mitigate the risk of harm to civilians. Oh, is that right? Is that right? So are you saying that there was a terrorist in her house? Because it seems, according to the reporting, that home was targeted specifically. The terrorists planned and executed terror attacks against IDF troops and Israeli civilians, the IDF said in a statement, without providing further details. When have they provided further details for any of these claims? When has a report said yes, they've provided this and this piece of evidence to back up their claim that, oh yeah, it was a combatant in the house. That's why we had to do it. Fatima's cousin Hamza Hassouna recounted the strike to CNN Friday. I was sitting when suddenly 2 rockets fell, one next to me and one in the living room. The house fell on us and everything was a disaster, he said. Hassouna posted her photos on Facebook and Instagram, where she had more than 35,000 followers. Her images documented the challenges of everyday life in Gaza and the threat of living under Israeli bombardment. So here's some of her photos, which you could see, Fatima_Hassouna, Hassona, on Instagram. You could still follow that handle if you want to see all of this work. But here's some of it. She was featured in Sepida Farsi's documentary film Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, which has been selected to be screened in the Acid section at the 78th Cannes Film Festival in May 2025. A director's statement describes the film as a window opened through a miraculous encounter with Fatima into the ongoing massacre of the Palestinians. So this is a write-up in Vulture magazine based on an interview with the filmmaker, or at least a statement they got from the filmmaker after news broke of her death. The film world was shocked yesterday to learn of the death of Fatima Hassouna, a 25-year-old Palestinian photojournalist and the subject of Sepida Farsi's documentary, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, which is set to premiere at the Cannes Film Festival in May. Hassouna was killed along with her siblings, including her pregnant sister, by an Israeli missile strike that targeted their Gaza apartment building. I refuse to accept it, Farsi says about first hearing of Hassouna's death. I thought it was a mistake. I tried reaching out to her, to all the people I knew. The director later received confirmation of the death, so she isn't sure yet if Fatima's parents were also among the dead. According to CNN, they were not, but they were in intensive care at the time. It's a profoundly sad coda to a story already steeped in sadness. Her assassination adds another layer to this tragedy, but the tragedy was already there. Here is another video of her from Gaza Notifications. Heartbreaking, Fatima Hassouna was a gifted artist, photographer, and photojournalist, a brave voice from Gaza, known for her powerful images and storytelling. Today, Israel killed Fatima and 10 of her family members, silencing a lens that showed the world Gaza's truth. Here's this video.
من هويتي وجزء من فلسطينيتي وجزء من تكويني هو هاي المدينة. يعني هاي غزة بتعز علي جدا جدا. بعتبر غزة هي يعني المدينة الأكثر جمال في العالم والأكثر دهشة في العالم. وعلى قد ما أنا كتير نفسي أسافر وكتير يعني واحد من أحلامي إني أنا أسافر برا البلد وأصور كتير شغلات وألف في كتير عوالم، أتعرف على ناس جديدة وثقافات جديدة، ولكن أنا بشوف إنه من باب أولى إني أنا أتعرف على ثقافتي بشكل أعمق وأتعرف على مدينتي بشكل أعمق.
So, another horrible story. What do you say, except that there's a documentary about her coming out in May at Cannes. Obviously, You Had No Other Land win the Oscar this past year. And, you know, one thing that can be done to get the word out about this, to tell the story correctly of this genocide, is for artists to take their responsibility seriously as artists and create works of art, be it documentary films, narrative films, songs, poems, plays, visual art, photography, paint, you name it. Using art to get the word out is obviously very powerful. That's how a film like No Other Land won the Oscar. And hopefully this film goes far and wide. Be nice if every Oscar-winning documentary for the next 20 years was about this issue. That's one way to, you know, tell this story correctly and win people over to the side of justice, which is a battle that's being won slowly but surely. This is one more way to fight it, and it has to be. And this is, I know Russ speaks a lot about his frustration with the arts community for taking up all sorts of causes that are very safe, that won't cost them anything, and there's been relatively little art created about the genocide. But hopefully that starts to change. I think people have a real responsibility to make a change. You have the rap group Kneecap put Fuck Israel, Free Palestine up at Coachella. Macklemore's obviously been great, putting out a couple of songs about this, doing rallies. He spoke at the premiere of the Encampments film in New York City. And so there are certain artists who have stepped up, and more have to, and the more art is created about this, the more it'll nudge everyone else to step in. Because when you're looking to make it as an artist, a lot of what you're looking to do is not step on the toes of people who can give you a break. But that's not an excuse anymore. And it's certainly not an excuse in the new media age where anyone can write a song and post it online. Anyone can create work and get it out there. And so there's really no excuse not to, and it has to continue. You got something happen with your mic. I think you hit a button by accident. There.
I honestly think that part of the reason that you're first starting to see this emerge in mediums where anyone can just put their stuff out there without any gatekeepers.
Right.
And you're seeing such a dearth of any commentary about this in the fine arts,
right,
galleries and theater, because those things are all corporate funded.
Right.
They rely on a lot of corporate grants.
Koch
and
brothers.
Those
They're big arts funders.
Koch, yo, man, yeah. You go to Lincoln Center. They changed the name years ago, not recently, of the New York State Theater to the David H. Koch Theater.
Don't they have that fountain outside the Met too? Yeah, they're everywhere.
They put a lot of money into the arts, and it creates a chilling effect on what people are willing to talk about. I went to see that production of the Cherry Orchard where they had a talk back afterwards. And, you know, they're talking about the state of the world and fascism. They didn't say shit about a genocide happening in your lifetime. As artists, you're supposed to be at the forefront of calling this out, and they won't say anything because of who's controlling their strings. It's not an accident that people like Macklemore, who could just throw their shit up on TikTok, are the only artists really saying anything, because they're not beholden to these interests.
Exactly. And the world of documentary production, excuse me, is generally speaking, not always, obviously, There are big studios that produce documentaries, but generally speaking, the world of documentary film is smaller and less connected to Hollywood than narrative film, right? A lot of the independent films that you'll see on the festivals are either funded or
these days,
pre-purchased by...
a lot of them are running around with iPhones.
Well, exactly. But I'm saying even like if you look at like the narrative features, they're made by a studio like A24. Okay, now A24, okay, yeah, they're small compared to 20th Century Fox, but they still have to go through the Hollywood system, right? And a lot of big studios, had back when I was making movies, I knew all the names. You had Fox Searchlight, Paramount Vantage, independent subsidiaries of the larger studios. They're still beholden to the Hollywood system, in such a way that it makes it very, very difficult to get films like No Other Land made, or a film like what's coming out at Cannes. But documentaries, it's a small enough world. Documentaries are inexpensive enough to make generally, that you can get these films made and you can get them seen. Even if you circumvent the festival circuit, you can get them seen online. And it's very, very powerful. I mean, the fact that No Other Land won, I mean, you're introducing millions of people to a movie that just would have never been seen because it didn't get U.S. distribution, right? So boosting projects like that is important, and that's one more tool that we have at our disposal, and we definitely have to take advantage of it because it could be a very powerful thing.
It also struck me when she was talking about her connection to that land. I've been studying the history of that region, the ancient history of that region, and it's so tragic what we're doing to humanity's legacy. This is truly
the
cradle of civilization. It truly is. These places, Gaza, Egypt, Palestine, this goes to Syria. These are the earliest places with towns and city-states and empires, the very first places. We've already destroyed so much of the architecture, the ruins, artifacts that disappeared from Iraq, just all of what we've done in this region over the last 20 years, particularly. Obviously, there's a longer timeline of Western imperialism in that area, but particularly post 9/11, the amount of destruction that we have wrought on our collective human heritage is just incalculable. And you see somebody like this talking about her connection to this place. I'm sure that's a part of it. These people have been in that region since the beginning of the story of civilized human existence. That's part of their heritage. I'm sure they feel very connected to that.
Yes. And I think they also feel like if they endure, they'll win in the end, because projects like Israel don't last forever. Just like the kind of project we're turning into in America won't last forever. You talk about an imperial collapse. Well, why? Because we are embracing a lot of the very same violent nationalist instincts that really define Israel. And so eventually states like that fall. But they don't fall peacefully. They lash out violently at the world until they implode or are overtaken. And in this case, this will be an implosion. This will be a brain drain. There's going to be a brain drain in Israel. There's going to be a brain drain here. My wife was talking about this.
Oh, yeah. Who's going to apply to study here?
No, my wife was talking about because her hospital finally, I think, was able to bring on a couple of new hires, and they're from Albania. And this one woman was from Albania. She works with one woman who's been here from Albania for 30 years. But yeah, she's from Albania, and my wife said, why'd you come here from Albania? They said, well, we came for the American dream. And so Amanda said, well, what do you think? They said, no, we don't like it here. We're going to leave. Her son is in Cornell studying some brainiac thing. Like he's one of the big shots of tomorrow. What is he studying? Like aerospace engineering, a real brainiac, like the kind of people you need to like have a great, powerful society.
Right.
He's studying at Cornell. Once he gets his degree, he's moving to Europe. He's not going to stay here. They say in America, there's no sense of community. Every person is for themselves. Everything's so expensive. You have to work and work and work. And for what? This is not a person coming. I mean, Albania is not a particularly wealthy country. It's a country with its own problems, obviously, but they still find it preferable to this place. So we're going to have a brain drain here, too. This is why the implosion is going to come. Who that adds value to a society is going to want to stay here? Who?
Well, and also, people don't realize how much more expensive it is here, even relative to Europe. I was just reading an article, 2 old ladies, sisters, in their 70s. They moved to France. They bought a freaking house in a nice medieval town. Not completely in the boonies, not in Paris, but not just completely remote, only sheep around. Looked like a nice place. They bought the house for like $84,000.
That's crazy.
And they're able to live on their joint social security. Between the two of them, they get like $44,000 a year. But they couldn't live on that here, but they can there.
Right.
With a house.
Yeah. Yeah. So eventually you have to ask yourself, are we just going to have a brain drain? Is this going to be how we collapse? And yes, I think Israel's having that problem now. We're going to have that problem now. And yeah, that is the trajectory that we're on. All right. El Casador says, more MAGA outrage porn, please. Can you include Tulsi, Luna, and AOC? Like me, a threesome to rub one out. Thank you. Have you grifters plugged your Give, Send, Go for that art house sex movie? DD is El Casador. More MAGA.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I must have copied that twice. You said joking. Sorry, I must have copied that wrong. But Jezzy Armad, thanks, Jezzy. Jezzy plugged the Give, Send, Go in the chat. But yes, if you would like to contribute, spring is going to turn to summer in not too long. So we want to make sure we get our stuff.
We got to book it soon.
We got to book it soon, so you can help us get that done. GiveSendGo.com/do dissidents. We're planning a summer shoot. Hopefully we get the money raised so we can make that happen. If we can't raise it by the summer, maybe we'll do it in the fall. We do intend to do it. We'll do it when we raise the money, but we got to raise the money or it's not happening. Can't happen.
And I don't appreciate the people who have said that a couple of white Jewish guys are not qualified to remake Foxy Brown. We are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We are. Okay. Give us the chance to prove ourselves.
Exactly. So if you want us to get this film made, we gotta make it happen. GiveSendGo.com/do dissidents. All right. Thank you. We got a couple more Rumble rants and super chats. Nina Kant, the artists not stepping up are not in our economic class. Pals are in all of our class. Well, some of them are, some of them aren't. That's the thing. Anybody could do it. There's no gatekeepers. We just had a guy write a song inspired by us, post it on YouTube. You could do that. Anybody could do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
That is where I definitely try to. Yeah, like I do feel we lost something through this technology. But you also have to look at what we gained. Like, yeah, man, I think it took away a lot of community experiences because people are used to sitting in front of screens. But it also removed a lot of the gatekeeping that kept people from being able to reach audiences.
Right. Indeed. For sure. Casador says, damn, you gents end with a heavy story, but that stays with you. When did the word peace become an obscene word? Keep it up. Amen, El Casador.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. B. Doyne, thank you for the $2 here. My wife and I just returned home from Krakow, beautiful, affordable city. We were also still allowed to return home to the good U.S. of A. Well, congratulations on getting back in. That's what people are saying.
Look,
saying,
man,
well, go to Europe for a little while, see if you like it. Take a trip first, see if you like it, and then maybe in a year you can. Like, no. Once I go, that's it. I'm going. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
I almost married a Polish girl. I find them very beautiful.
There you go. Ficus, arguably the brain drain has already started. Yes, my high school friend accepted a tech job in the freaking Balkans. Hey.
Yeah, there you go.
What did I just say? I just said Albania. Did you say that in response to my Albania story? There, yeah, the Balkans, exactly. Yep, 100%. I believe you. Kuzeski Bassane, thanks for the $4.99 over on YouTube. And that, folks, concludes the program for today. Thanks very much, everybody, for being here. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to the YouTubers. Thanks to the Rumblers. Oh, yeah, one more thing we forgot to do because we are at 849 likes.
I got the shirt on. How'd you forget?
That's right. That's right. And I did forget. I'll be guesting with Kyle Anzalone on his show tomorrow at 4:45. I'm not sure if he streams that or pre-records that, but if he does, I'm assuming it's on antiwar.com's YouTube channel. So go subscribe there, antiwar.com, their YouTube channel. I might be live tomorrow. I might be recorded. I don't know how he does it. I'll find the details out. But we will be live once again. Patty Savage, thanks for the $9.99 on YouTube. Appreciate that very much. Thanks to all the super chatters and the Rumble ranters. We will be live again Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks very much for being here, everybody. Smash the like button on the way out wherever you are. Follow us over on Rumble. Subscribe over on YouTube. And we will see you Thursday morning at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Courage. Pizza bolla. We got to say pizza
bolla.
Pizza bolla.
Please clap.